Either that would, you have to give me a copy of the recording afterwards because and I've done this stuff. It's died. All right, let's get started. We're here for the Town of Loxodgy Groves Roadway, Equestrian Trail and Greenway Advisory Committee meeting Wednesday. Wait a minute, I'm in the wrong agenda here. That's better, yeah. Some reading of the agenda from October, that's not good. Wednesday, February 26, 2014. Roll call, please.
Chair Nina Corney.
Here.
Vice Chair Kathy Strelo.
Here.
Committee Member Keith Harris.
Here.
Committee Member Joe Siciliano. I can't pronounce for you. Joe. She's absent.
Okay. Approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Approval 3-0 unanimously. Second, minutes. Approval of the minutes for October 23rd.
I move to approve the minutes of Wednesday, October 23rd.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did you?
Aye.
Aye. It's approved 3-0. November 20th minutes.
I move to approve the November 20th minutes.
I'll second that.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved and unanimously. Presentations. Ray Flow on behalf of WAG Flow LLC requesting zoning confirmation from the town for a proposed private commercial equestrian facility on a 40-acre parcel located at the southeast corner of Gruber Lane and D Road. Is that you guys?
You want to give an intro so they can understand what we're all hearing? That might be better.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if you were allowed, Jim.
Go ahead, Jim.
When Mr. Flo came in last month, when I was sitting in for Braden while he was out, and he had a very interesting equestrian concept that he wanted to find out whether or not he could do it under the town's zoning code. And we just gave you a list of the uses that were included at that time in his request: marina and horse barn, office, pool and parking area, horse trailer and vehicle parking area with playground, residential unit for the manager's quarters, and a horse trailer.
Did you say pool?
Yes. Yes. And his concept was, at that time, was essentially to set up almost like a timeshare concept where he sold memberships to the facilities so that people could trailer their horses down, board their horses, exercise their horses, and also possibly stay on site in either RVs or the residential component of the horse trailers. And we expressed some concern at that time with the idea of bringing RVs, a bunch of RVs into the town. And the town council has expressed on numerous instances that it was not really in favor of creating RV parks in town. So we wrote him a zoning confirmation response that essentially heard that what he was proposing was consistent with the town's code, except that we had several questions that we wanted to have answered when he came in for his site plan approval. And this is one of those uses that it's not bona fide ag yet, and it can't become bona fide ag until the property appraiser assigns that designation. So staff was requiring that he come through the site plan process first, get up and running, and then at some point get his bona fide ag designation. We had 8 issues that we asked him to address when he came in with a site plan, and I'll read through those. The number of stalls to be provided in the horse barn, the number of horse trailer spaces provided, and the duration of the maximum length of stay, the definition of member guest, because like I said, this was sort of set up like a timeshare. I guess that's the closest thing where members would purchase either a week or a month or a block of time so that they could bring their horse down.
Can we hold our horses just a minute so that we can welcome Joe?
Hi, Joe.
Hi, sorry.
And then we also wanted him to specifically address the issue of recreational vehicles. Would they be allowed? And if he was proposing to allow them, under what circumstances would they be allowed? Wanted him to address the issue of manure collection and disposal, and the size and location of any septic fields and wells, an estimate of the number of members he would be anticipating, and he also was proposing to open up the facility certain times a year to have equestrian events. So we wanted him to address the type of events and maybe the number and duration of events. So with that summary, I'll turn it over to Ray. As I said, he came in for zoning confirmation request, and we said that basically the concept that he was proposing was consistent with the code. However, we had some specific issues that needed to be addressed in his application for site plan approval.
And he's here because we wanted him to run it by the committee and get your input as to what you thought, just so if they're going to move forward, they have an idea of what a roadway, equestrian trail, greenway type board might, issues they might identify.
So, and here's he had brought in a sort of a sketch plan, which I guess has changed, but
It's in their packet.
Oh, you already have
Yeah.
We changed slightly from this, but we would have still the trails. I'm not sure we want the pool. Jim was encouraging in saying that if we had a place for local riders to have a membership, and they could come in and ride, because it gets old riding your horse the same road every day. So if they wanted to come in and ride our trails and stop off and get them a Coke and so forth, then that would be, they would be a member. They could do all that. So they could, we'll have an arena for barrel riding. If they wanted to do that, they would be welcome to. Or if they had an event, and if they wanted to hand out medals and so forth, do that. But they would be entitled to the same membership privileges of anybody else. So, we don't have the trail. Well, we have some of the trails shown here, of course, around the outside, but it's a pretty simple concept. Just so we could, when the time, when we get get started, it depends on how you folks feel. We could have this thing in effect. If we're just gonna do this part of it, just the locals, and then we might even have a few campers to come in, or horse trailers to come in, that will stay for the day. They'll be welcome. They'll be a member. Everybody be a member. What we would certainly not have is, a girl's birthday party and the girl's 10 years old come out to ride horses the first time. That, you couldn't get insurance for that, so it would be full-fledged membership of a horse person with horses. So, but we could have this in operation in 6 months. The trails and most of the facilities, a little snack bar like, would be unmanned, but it would have a vending machine there, and they could sit down and put their feet up and relax for a while. So, but just not complicated. Anything else you need to?
From the plan you have in front of you, obviously, as you see off to the right when you first come in, most of the original idea of the camping structures there where people could stay with their trailers overnight. We've eliminated that. We're still planning on having the riding arena, and we're wanting to do a horse barn. And inside the horse barn, not only would we have the stalls for people that wanted to board their horses there, we'd also have a large meeting hall where people could pass out events if they had some kind of horse-related event that they wanted to do. And they also could use our arena for horse-related events. Like you said, the pool's probably going to be, if we do it, it'd be at a later date depending on what the members wanted. I mean, if the members could see a use in them riding their horses, their kids play at the pool or something, we might consider that. But as of right now, the camping spots for the overnight stays in the pool has been omitted. We'd still have parking so that the people with horse trailers can come in. That way it's not only local Waxahachie riders. And we'd be putting in more trails in place of where we had the camping area. And basically the place would just be a large wooded area, mostly palm trees and places to ride. We wanted to get your idea of, is this something that the people of the community might see an interest in, of being able to come and ride their horses instead of riding just down D Road or riding down E Road or something like that.
Question for you.
Sure.
You said the camping area has been omitted, however, the RV area has not been omitted.
No, the camping area was RVs. We weren't gonna have people in tents or anything like that, bringing tents on horseback. It was originally for horse trailers that had living quarters inside the horse trailers, or people that had RVs that pulled horse trailers behind them. We're opening that altogether. There won't be overnight staying
So
at the
no
location.
RVs, period.
Correct.
Where are you?
Well,
hoping-
I have an RV, but that's,
Well,
you're here,
so
there. I'll be
personal,
living there.
you know, 1 or 2 versus 30.
Where are you hoping to draw your membership?
Basically from everywhere.
Well, I mean,
Like-
what does that mean?
Well, we have not only the local community, but we'd like to actually become maybe a spot that people might want to come to, where people could come, like, say they have a vacation, they come stay at the KOA, they go see Lion Country Safari, they could come to our place, ride a horse. We're not basically per se looking to draw from any area in particular, just anybody that might want to be a member
Are
of
you
the facility.
planning to have horses available to rent?
That's still kind of in the, we're still deciding on that one.
That
We're still going
depends
through
on the
more
money, of
insurance.
course.
Mhm.
But that wouldn't be a bad idea if we had some of the, or if somebody wanted to rent out their horse, have one of the members that could have his horse and they rent it out.
I have a bunch of questions.
I do,
I do
Oh,
too.
shoot ahead, you were the first one to ask.
Okay. We have a 40-acre parcel. The ULDC section 20-10B says that an unlimited number of livestock can occur on properties more than 10 acres or more. The definition of the commercial equine operations shows the participants as a 2-to-1 ratio. The fact that there's unlimited number of horses, we can have an unlimited number of people on this property at any one time. We have talked about events. We have talked about buildings of assembly for awards and presentations. We've talked about snack bars. We've talked about possibly a pool. In the notes, there's a playground. it's telling me that this is a destination resort and not a standard commercial equine operation which consists of boarding horses, riding lessons, training the horses, and breeding. He's eliminating the camping area, which is a good thing, because that's now taking overnight accommodations out of play.
Or is it?
What's that? No, there will be no staying overnight,
Now,
if that's what you're asking.
he's offering a barn, which is inconsistent with our development code and our,
I'm sorry, say that again?
he's offering a barn, which is consistent with.
A barn?
A
I
barn.
thought you said
a horse barn.
inconsistent, that's why I was
No,
like,
no,
excuse me
consistent
again?
with a barn, and which is consistent, for boarding purposes, you're allowing riding areas, which is consistent. Now, it's a sticky wicket. We embrace the equestrian community. We have kind of gone through this process over the past year of developing what consists of commercial equine operation. There's 4 points: boarding, lessons, training, and breeding. This is a little scary, but we do have properties that have riding arenas with press boxes, with lights, with grandstands, such as property on Okeechobee that faces E Road. You can see that scenario there, whether that's being used and whether that was built prior to the incorporation of the town and is considered a historical legacy, I don't know. But your proposed project is of interest, but it's a little scary because it becomes more of a commercial destination resort, specializing in the equine business. So we've got to look at it. Will the planning and zoning be looking at this as well?
Yeah.
I have a question. So, in your development of this, what is it that Loxahatchee Groves benefits from having you with this group of amenities that quite honestly exist all over the place in little pieces here and there already? What's the benefit to Loxahatchee Groves? What is it that you're saying we don't already have that this will bring?
I guess riding trails, 40 acres of riding trails would be pretty big. I don't know if there's any others like that, is there? Or, and for the locals, local membership, for the local people here. So that would be 2 things.
That's one thing, riding trails.
Riding trails, but for the local people. We got not just people from West Palm and out of town, or wherever they're from, but also for the local people here that could really enjoy it. As far as,
I guess really the question is financially. I mean, how do I mean? This is, you said a club member, that just because you're a resident?
Exclusivity.
so you have to pay your membership.
And then how, okay, the membership goes to you, and that allows only the people who have paid the membership to come in.
But that wouldn't necessarily help the city.
No.
If we planted stevia there, it wouldn't necessarily help the community.
If you did what?
If we were a farm and planted stevia, which is a
Sugar plant.
Right.
sugar plant, so, but that would be, I don't know if that wouldn't help the city, I don't know, but that wouldn't help the city either. We just made it, kept it as a farm. It's a plant nursery now, so. Yeah, I don't know.
That was just my question I had.
So, but we're just looking for some way to help pay for this thing, because we've got lots of money in it, and there's not much.
I'm sure you do.
And we bought it at one time, And that's my stupidity, but nevertheless, we would like some income on it if we could get that. So this would offer some remuneration.
Good word, remuneration.
Catherine?
Okay, this, what is this little, what are these?
Those
Is
were-
that patio?
No, that's going to be omitted. That was for the overnight stay of
Oh,
horse
that would be
trailers.
RV parking?
Yeah, that's gonna
Okay,
be
so
gone and
where this
converted.
says horse stall, but you don't have any idea what size this would be?
We're thinking of doing the horse barn in possibly 2 phases, doing 50 stalls in one, and then if need be, membership grows, doing another of 50 stalls.
And you have no pasture?
Actually, the whole place where it says riding, are you talking about for grazing of horses or for them
Yes.
to
For
go out and
turnout.
walk?
For
Yes,
turnout?
we are gonna have that, cause like, our next door neighbor Ingrid expressed that she had to take her horses, I think out somewhere by Line Country Safari to go walk them around, and she rented 5 acres. We wanted to also have that where they could have a share of an area to come allow their horses to ride or walk around or whatever you call it for a little while too. That's gonna be back in the back area of the place,
This would all be.
where they can let them out, where it's fenced in and they can just, I mean, I know graze isn't the right word, but roam or something.
But this would be all fenced in, all sides.
Well, so people would be trailing through unsupervised horses?
No. That's why I said in the back area, we have a fenced-in area where people like Ingrid, our next-door neighbor, could
Yes.
come and set their horses free, where they can have a good, 5 acres to walk around, roam around.
In
That's
here?
not gonna, that'd be back towards the back, and it'd be
Oh,
fenced
is
off
this-
from everything else.
is this
That's the
D
front,
road?
that's D road, yes.
Oh, okay.
That's E road in the back.
Okay, I think what we've meshed together are 2 very different things. You know, aside from the fact that if you were to have 100 barns, you had practically needed grazing areas of what the recommended amount is, it would be 100 acres. Okay, and people do it with less, and I'm not saying that you have to have 100 acres. You've meshed together something that's very common to do in our neighborhood, which is the practices of riding, training, some schooling. You know, we are in the process of trying to put in roughly 30 miles of trails in through the town. We have commercial properties that we've asked to put aside buffers that are 300 feet deep, that are roughly almost 20 acres worth, in order to accommodate that desire to be riding in this area. But what you are doing with this is eventing. And eventing is a completely different use.
It's going what, eventing?
I'm calling it eventing. And it's something that actually I have asked the P&Z in the past, because I wanted to understand the difference between eventing and our common ag practices. And they were very clear about this, that eventing was not your typical ag practice. It's one thing when you have, you've got 10 kiddies in a school, and now they've finished a course and all the parents come to watch the 10 kiddies ride, versus what you're doing here. I mean, this seems to have an element more so of almost some of the larger commercial entities that you find in Wellington, where you could potentially have a tremendous amount of traffic going in and out. I am 100% for protecting agricultural properties and the uses, but this is, what you're describing to me is something that would, in my opinion, probably belong in our commercial areas. Yeah, and this is in the middle between our stables and homes. It's, you're smack in the middle of it. You're not, on off Southern Boulevard in the commercial area where all of this traffic in and out, so forth, could be accommodated. It's contained, and then maybe some people ride out from there. So I have concerns of how you've mixed the uses for this property. but I'm gonna let the public speak. So Phyllis, you were first.
Yeah, do I need to say
Yes.
my name?
For the
Phyllis Manilia, 359 West D Road, Loxahatchee Groves. I would be all for a Jim Brandon type facility in our neighborhood. I have a little 2 acres, I do not have an arena, and I'm very sorry, Nina, I am not feeling great about the trail system lately. The last time I went to a meeting, it was very clear Mr. Rocket was gonna drag his feet on this. So what we have the opportunity to do now is maybe these gentlemen would like to, if 100 stalls is, y'all feel is too much traffic, they could work with what they wanna do. And I would like to see some little horse shows over here and some venues over this way. I'd love to have a place to ride, a safe place to ride. I'd love to have an arena to ride in. I don't even know what I do. I haven't ridden in an arena in so long. And I took my horses down the road the other day. I was telling you that. And they haven't done anything new to the road. What happens is when it rains really hard, washes away the sand, brings up the rocky stuff, so the roads are really hard to walk on. I tried walking to the park, which is here, trying to figure out where I am right now. So, and I live by the other, by the Loxahatchee Water District, so I walk down this side road. So I'm for it. If these guys want to spend the money, I would pay a maintenance fee to, whatever, as long as it's not crazy, and I think maybe the residents would like.
500 a year? 500 a year?
Oh, no, say no. Well,
You can do a local discount.
This way, local, this guy.
yeah, I think you're gonna make most of your money on stabling and stuff like that. I don't think it's fair to ask the people of Loxahatchee Groves to pay like $500 a year is like joining a country club. No, so I'm glad you brought that up because, see, then I couldn't afford it. And I would be left with that, so.
That price still isn't final though, because we're still going through insurance companies trying to figure out what it's gonna cost to cover our actual assets on the property and to cover, the company in case something were to happen. I know it's an equestrian community and there's special allotments for horse incidents or stuff like that, but that's not something that's set.
Well, if you could get some horse show venues in there, that would be income also.
That's not exactly, we're not looking to become an all-day event thing where we're having people out there every single day, because.
Well, that would be like weekends, and you would probably attract smaller shows, just like schooling shows and stuff like that.
Members, that's probably is, these are not gonna be open to the public. It'd just be members and their friends. If they wanna come out and
Well,
ride,
then I
come
say,
on.
good luck to you. I can't
We
afford
gotta
it.
keep- She's actually calling to us.
Okay.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Well, so I am for something like that. I wanna ride, I'm just itching to ride, I'm chomping at the bit, trying to keep up with the trails. And, so that's how I feel. I'm not objecting to this. I personally would not be able to afford it. And I think you would have more interaction with the Loxahatchee public also, if maybe you would consider bringing your price down to where it was more reasonable for the locals.
Virginia.
Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road, 30-year resident of Loxahatchee Groves. And I look forward to one day the horse trails being in our community, and I'm very sorry to hear, actually I'm disappointed to hear that Mr. Rocket is dragging his heels on the trail because it was one of his campaign promises, I believe. But anyway, I was surprised to see this issue before this committee, but it provides a good sounding board. I just want to point out a few things in our neighborhood. We have Sunsport that does the same part of what they're suggesting. Trailers stay there overnight, months on end, so we do have an existing facility that does that in our community on 140th and 40th. We have a property on D Road that has all the ATVs in the neighborhood come out. He's got stands, and it's a private little membership thing. I don't know if it's paid or unpaid, but they showed up on a regular basis
and they do the same thing. Private property, people come on, regular scheduled event. I mean, they may be eventing and we don't even know it. These people at least have come forward. They can come forward and quite frankly be ag. They can make themselves ags. They probably wouldn't have to ask you any of this. They could put up as many stalls as they want. They don't need to tell you the size of their stalls. They can build, if they're ag, they can build the barn they want with the stalls they want. So I was surprised to see that question, how many stalls? The number of guests, again, I was surprised to see that question, and perhaps you're only asking it because you're trying to ascertain capacity on the property. I don't go around telling anybody how many guests I'm having unless I have an event where I'm putting up a tent and I know I have to come into town and do things. I see portions of this plan as positive for the community. The agricultural aspect of it, the equestrian aspect of it, which we're very strong equestrian, despite what some people think in this town. And we look to keep it and we look to encourage it. I can understand the part about eventing is that can be done on a controlled basis. You go before the town and ask for permits, and you have to solicit. We have a process, Jim, I'm sure has explained to you guys.
We were at the town meeting.
Right. So you have a process you go through and you can determine if you want to do eventing, if it's one a month or whatever it is. I really, with all the traffic that's going to be coming through this town for other reasons, I would welcome seeing horse trailers come down these roads. I would welcome knowing that we're going to have eventually, despite what some people want, a horse trail in this community that could tie into something like that. Whatever the fees are, it's all negotiable. Everything in life is negotiable. Okay, just remember, local landowners and residents should have a discount. As far as the liability issues, that's on them and their insurance company. Okay, it's private property. That is not the town's concern. The way that the way they've presented here, I would welcome seeing something like this in the community. Just letting you know. I mean, again, we do have to go with our guidelines and our rules. And the thing about septic tank and wells, I think it's called the health department. Okay. Thank you.
Well, I think you kind of picked on what I was getting at, is that we've mixed together two uses, one that we welcome and one that, would, I think, place you someplace else if this was a regular occurrence. Virginia just mentioned the fact that you could have occasional events with a permit, and that's possibly a solution. My concern is just when we become something like Palm Beach International. That's not that. From what I'm hearing in the presentation, there's a little bit of that there. Yet on the other side, when I'm reading these questions, like number of stalls provided, again, when you have the ag classification, it is not our business to tell you. Number of horse trailers, spaces provided, the guests, that sort of thing. That's a totally different part. If we're having a club and you're having a consistent events and this is like the thoroughfare for like being the Olympic jumping grounds, okay, then that becomes a different use for it versus the use of doing what a lot of our folks are already doing. And I think you need to kind of decide which way you want to go, because what I'm seeing here, the RV concern was definitely a concern that has always been there by the town. Manure collection and disposal. Well, if you have an ag classification, you certainly would hope that you would use best management practices. But you are no longer really in an ag use when you become the Braden Center. or Palm Beach International Polo Grounds, or any of that's different. So I think you need to decide what it is that you're actually asking us to consider.
Okay, so you're against any kind of large horse event, basically.
Consistent large horse events. I think that if you had occasional events that Mark decided to approve, I think the approval process is with you at this point for that, is that correct?
Or a Class C, temporary
For the
event.
Class C, temporary events.
How
But
often
that's a
is,
different,
how often would temporary be? Every other year, or every other month, or every week?
Well, yeah, it all depends on the size, and the type, and the duration. I mean, we have different permits for different
So
classifications.
if you had a barrel racing, and you had 50 people there every other week, would that be bad? Is that, we gotta talk about something here and get going. 50 people to come to the event, barrel racing event, every other week, twice a month. Is that too much?
would you like to be the neighbor of that? Is that,
If we,
that's the questions.
well, we could figure out the number of trips, or if you were,
You could buffer your property with a shield of heavy planting around the
That's
perimeter.
actually already there, fishtail palms and, other
I'm
palms.
sorry, I don't mean,
Those questions that we listed there were just items that we wanted you to consider when you're doing your site plan. We weren't saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. We wanted you to address those items in your site plan to give the town some specifics to respond to.
For the committee, remember, this was a letter of zoning interpretation that the staff did based upon what they presented us. He's here because in the recommendation, after Jim had determined that it is a commercial equestrian operation, he has pointed these things out for some guidance, but he wants them to get any input that the committee may have, and then, of course, they need to take that back. I mean, I guess you could have a give and take in terms of questions, but it's not, I would caution you, Ray, it's not don't put the committee on the defensive here. They don't necessarily have to give you all the ideas. I think they need to give you their input, and then you need to take it away and work with it, and then come back if you so desire.
so, okay, we can, I'm not being difficult.
No, I don't know. I didn't mean to say you are.
But I can come back with how many events we would have, if we ever have one. But just in case we want one, we would want to know, what would the city, is 50 people too many? Or, where would we get this info? Would I put that down in my proposal?
I think the problem you're having is you're asking singular individual questions without us having a comprehensive plan to look at and review. That's the problem. It's really hard for anybody to tell you that.
And really, we're getting so many different things thrown together into one pot. You hear that I think some of the people in the neighborhood, they welcome equestrian uses. They would like to have a place to ride. I think right here in this room in particular, you've got a lot of ag-friendly people here. The question is, when have you gone out of ag and into eventing, in my opinion?
That would be a different zoning. Eventing is different.
No, the events would be permitted individually. Like if you wanted to have your barrel racing event, you would apply for a permit for an outdoor event. Okay, so you could, in your site plan, make a statement that we plan to have X number of events every year.
Okay.
But when you come up to the specific event, then you would get a permit for that event.
So we'd come to with a scenario of how many, what would be the maximum events we'd have, maximum number of horses, maximum number of memberships and so on.
Well, we could make that a condition of approval, but you might want to have it more general than that, saying, okay, this is the facility plan. And in that facility, we're gonna have, these are the physical facilities we're gonna have, and we plan to have certain types of special events every year. And when that comes up, you would make an application for that specific event. I don't think that you necessarily want to say, well, we're only gonna ask to have 5 events every year.
Unless their site plan submission was specific enough where they could tell us that they were going to do event A, every Tuesday during the year, and event B every Thursday, then that's something that could be reviewed, reviewable, and we can determine if everything works. But you'd have to know all that information when you come in with your site plan. You'd have to be that specific.
And also, I mean, if you're just talking about a few of your members getting together to do something together, that might not even qualify as a special event.
And as a matter of fact, on that note, Jim, I think the 2-to-1 is something that we've all, I mean, at least Virginia and I in the past have complained about. That's an absolutely phenomenally low ratio. It's something that we ought to look into, and that the ULD sees at some point in time.
I just wanted to add to my other comment, something I left off. And I'm speaking to the committee, but listen carefully. Don't give them too much information. You are not required. Protect your ag rights, okay? We are in this community to protect agricultural. When Mr. Fleischman speaks and he says general is what you can provide. No, there are events going on throughout this community. We have a church event on Okeechobee. I'll give you numbers. What do they draw? 1,000 people for the Christmas pageant in a couple of days. Then there are small events. I would just welcome an agricultural neighbor, and I think you have, as Mr. Fleischman can tell you, you simply contact your neighbors around you. There are requirements you will do to find out what's going on. But I would not expect the town to want specific information before granting an agricultural, real detailed specific information before granting an agricultural property.
No, Virginia, but
I understand the event side of it.
The chair raised the issue of eventing.
Right, I understand that.
And that takes it into other categories.
Right, but we are going to the fact, I'm speaking to the fact that there are events in this town that take place, and we understand that, but as we get to the 2-to-1, and you were discussing getting specific detailed information, and what I am saying to this committee and even to the people applying is, I don't understand the need for having someone give specific detailed information on something they don't even know that's going to happen. You can suggest things and hope, but that may not turn out that way. I think when you buy your property and you develop it as an ag property and you use your ag rights to build your barn and your stall, don't overthink it. You don't rush and ask for everything like you were trying to do. You can start slowly and work with the town.
In my remarks earlier, I prefaced it as this being a sticky wicket. There are a lot of things here I like what you're suggesting, but there's also a lot of things that are borderline permitted use. And you're entitled to do agricultural activities. What concerns me and something you need to look at is the commercial aspects, snack bars, buildings of assembly, playgrounds, other things that are not agricultural or equine activities. They are related, but a pool and a playground and at one point a campground was suggesting otherwise. So you're in the ballpark, you just need to get the baselines established, how you want to go and bring it back, and we tweak it some more.
I hate to have a whole meeting just for us. Gosh, I thought there would be 3 or 4 other people waiting in line, but I'm sorry to bring you all out like this, but we're babes in the woods.
Well, that's what we're here for. We're here to help.
So, okay.
And his definition of snack bar is a couple vending machines. We're not having an actual snack bar by
Oh,
today's
no,
standards.
this is a quarter machine.
There's not gonna be a bar, there's
Once
not
we get
gonna
to the
be.
site plan
I like
and develop,
margarita every now and then.
get more precise,
on the
then
horse.
we can really tweak it. You know, so right now, you're coming in generalities, and we're trying to help direct you to where you need to look and things that you need to be concerned about. I think you've heard both positive support, and you've also heard concerns. So now you have the opportunity to go back and really detail your scope of work and site plan, and we tweak it some more.
So they're doing a survey tomorrow, a big survey of the lot, which hasn't been done. I think there's 30-some years since one survey, but we have one coming up. We'll make a bigger survey and have it laid out for you and look at some of these things. And if you don't mind, we'll come back again and get, I gotta start somewhere, you know, I don't know where to start. We can plan some stuff, but we'd like to do a little more.
Well, some of the questions that we raised in the staff report were based on our understanding that it was gonna be set up like a timeshare.
Yeah,
And that's why we asked how many members. And questions like that, because, you know, if you sold 1,000 memberships and everybody showed up at the same time, you know, that kind of thing. So some of the questions that we asked might go away based on your restatement of what you want to do.
Kathy, anything? No?
There is, yes, the sticky wicket. It's a fine line with the extent of the commercial. Nobody minds, I mean, you know, we all have, ag commercial, but it's the extent of the commercial, I think, is when you are bordering on that eventing. I think that's what we're looking for.
If you had the 40 acres, and you had 8 homes, as you were allowed by RR5, on the 40 acres, yeah, and the 8 homes decided, today is a party, we're going to have a birthday party. There's a certain amount of traffic and a certain amount of hustle bustle that would come with those 8 homes, okay? And maybe those people would have horses, and maybe they invite over their friends, and maybe, you know, it's gotta fit, yeah? And you look around, we have a lot of facility that never come out and specifically ask for things but they are quiet, they are part of our ag res life, and they work. So just make sure you're not jumping the wall over to the other side. Yeah? That's as much as I can give you here today, I think. Or we can
Automobile
give you here
trips.
today.
Automobile trips, if you had 8 homes with 2 people working.
Let's not get into all of that. Yeah. Okay. Do you need anything more from us today?
Well, no, this was something that Ray didn't have to do. He came in
Right.
with this zoning confirmation request. We gave him our opinion, and we thought it would be a good idea just to come in and let you guys know what he's planning to see if he can get some input from you guys before he puts his application together.
There are a lot of parts that already happen in this town, many locations. The common use. Don't jump in.
Which is not necessarily a reason not to do it.
No.
What can we do about that 2-to-1 ratio, since I have you here on the record?
Well, I mean, the only thing we can do about that is to change the code. But no, that 2-2-1, or 2-to-1 ratio, in my mind, does not apply to a special event. A special event is a whole
Yes.
different animal.
But, you know, honestly, Loxahatchee Gross in general is in violation of that constantly, because it's the ratio that's impossible.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only way to change it is to change the code.
Okay, so
Which
how do we
certainly
approach
can
that,
be done.
because of the ULDC committee has kind of been given this a sleepy shot for the moment.
No, you need to take it to council, and then council would direct the ULDC to look at it.
Can't
So-
wait. I look
All
forward to
right,
that.
so is that something we want to pick up?
I have one last question, and it's actually for Jim. He's currently zoned AR. The property appraiser classification is some type of nursery. With that nursery classification, that's an agricultural classification of some sort. We can build non-residential, non-habitable agricultural buildings without benefit permit on that property. So he can build a horse barn straight away without permits and without having the designation of the property appraiser changed. Is that correct?
I would say that that's true. Now, we, the site plan that he showed us was a commercial equestrian operation. And and it had several accessory uses like the trailer parking and the pool.
Right.
So we're, our opinion was, okay, you don't have bona fide ag as an equestrian operation. Therefore, we would require you to come through our site plan approval process, because you don't have the equestrian bona fide ag.
But he still can build a non-habitable residential building without having to obtain a permit with his nursery classification.
Or site plan.
Okay. So he's got some
Make sure we can
positive.
hear you though.
Oh, he has some positive things working for him already. He just needs to
Yeah, well, when it
guide
comes,
it to a
when it comes to
particular
the
route.
property appraiser's assignment of bona fide ag and changing a use code,
Mhm.
I'm not really sure how they do that.
Okay.
Let's see if we can help him out.
And
What I was looking for, I don't know whether I have to pass the gavel here, maybe I should do that. Can I pass the gavel to you, Kathy?
Yeah, sure.
I told you
Yes.
guys something here. No.
See, she can throw.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to ask the council to change the 2-to-1 ratio for horse properties. Do I have a second? Your mind. No, you say that.
Do I have a second?
Can you repeat the motion?
I would like to change, basically, when we have a equestrian facility, we are currently allowing a ratio of human participants to horses. It has to be consistent with 2-to-1, meaning no greater than 2 horses, 2 humans to 1 horse,
Correct.
which I believe we are often in violation of in this town, and my suggestion would be to expand that just a little bit. We can make a specific recommendation, or we can simply ask them to have the ULDC committee mill it over.
That is consideration, and I would like to refer to the town to contemplate.
Okay?
Okay, are you withdrawing your motion at
Well,
this time?
the motion
It's
is failing right now.
Failing for lack of
Okay.
second.
So, would you like to table this until our next meeting and have it on the agenda?
Sure. Do I make
Put it back
a
on.
motion for that, I guess?
No.
So you want to have it as an agenda item to discuss further at the next meeting?
Yes, so it should already be there, right? Nobody has to do anything, it's going to appear. All right.
Okay, moving on to our next agenda item. Number 4, old business. Discussion of MREC items, recommendation and future land use and transportation elements of the comprehensive plan, objectives and policies.
Do they need me on this?
No, you're welcome to stay, you're welcome to go, whatever you want.
Thank you very much for your dedication.
Thank you.
Sorry that I was
Okay, we're having a break.
Yeah,
Break,
that's
break.
huge,
Yes, but
but
when it gets
we love to.
It is cold.
got the foot, no touch.
Okay, go away.
Thank you for coming, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you down.
I'm glad I wasn't going to bring a jacket, I
Off
grabbed
record,
one last second.
Great American Insurance is great for equine management coverage.
Sorry.
Great
I
American
think it's
Insurance.
something
I look at,
you might want to stick around
They
and
have,
for a
there's
second
two
to see
actual North Americans.
where this
One of them
goes.
is a Florida organization that's specifically for equine facility management. You know, casualty control, liability, the whole thing.
It needs to work with the rest of the documents, so we need to just.
Yeah, so I don't know if
Very
you're aware
knowledgeable.
of what they did talk about fines before.
the insurance provider.
I just.
That ain't, that office.
Okay, so we're gonna propose that the
Well, this Great American, the only agent I know is the Harvard Agency, and they're located up in Georgia.
I just printed a copy of it, it's not the latest,
Great
they're in this here,
source for insurance information and consideration.
Phyllis, you doing?
Good, how are you, Mark?
Good, good.
None of which
And
affect
if I can be even the assistant, Joshua.
the description of the meeting.
I'll remember, I remember the Joshua, my name was Seth Allen.
I'll be glad to talk to you and help you in way I can. Formulate this, it's just.
This was
there's
a
certain
this was a
things we have to
previous
follow.
one.
Gotcha, thank you.
And there's always a way to get.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah,
Joshua.
this had additions by your committee.
Yeah, but this went in front of the council.
And you really.
This went in front of the council, and then Jim asked for a specific,
Mark?
um,
That thing.
asked for something be changed on the description.
Well, it was just like,
And then there was the and/or that was added.
well, I'll see if I can find it.
A lot of change.
It certainly not gonna have.
No, I know, but
Yeah,
I
but
have 3 copies with me anyhow.
Well,
We're
you might,
been asked to compare it to.
you might wanna talk to some people that, you know.
Was that the last time?
And yeah, call me and any
Stop.
Phyllis,
You're comparing it
You're on here, right?
Yeah, I'm on Westie, right?
But I brought it up to management before the last hearing. and
Leave a
then
message in your number, that's
today,
fine.
All the plans.
All right,
I'll
right.
collect it and
Thank you.
compare it to documents.
And I thought everybody knew what they wanted, rural.
I came up for a whole nother reading.
Which item is this?
Signs, and that's
Signs.
kind of old
And I have
business.
it, I have it in my,
Stuff like Southern and now
in my notes under,
to the north of us.
under remarks. For Mark, and if he doesn't bring it up, I will bring it up.
Well, it's kind of old business too.
Look at your jacket.
I know, I'm freezing, my hair is wet.
It's freezing.
I'm gonna find the thermostat.
Oh, no, Bubs.
Out of my truck, there's a jacket.
It is.
Hey, how you doing?
And I've got a jacket.
I was sitting here going like this because my hair was wet, but now I finally got adjusted to it. And then this guy had the flu. I got my flu shot about a month ago, but that doesn't make me feel any better.
Well, he didn't have it, so he didn't get a flu shot, so you're okay.
I hope so.
I'm afraid I'm not gonna find it. I mean, it's an inconsequential change.
Yeah, it is.
I have a jacket.
It didn't mean anything.
You do it.
Yeah.
Can I
get her a jacket?
Sure. I'm not, Lawrence Bundy, the last one, I wouldn't print in time.
Just get up.
Only for the
You can go faster than me. Go the passenger side. It's right up front.
Maybe
And lock it back up. Okay. Don't have to, grab the sweat.
Well, I can email you a copy of what the final
The
one
finals.
is. Because I have a copy of it.
With the changes.
Yeah, with the changes. But the changes that you guys made and were struck
Right, those are there.
are not in the final. And that, I mean, that
Not saying
changes.
anything.
I didn't understand, where are you going with that?
90% of something.
Well,
The MREG
Jim is comparing the MREG, Jim, I think it was actually Pete, compared the MREG to the other documents we have. And the transportation element is all the old transportation elements.
Right, but I thought you guys were assessing the MREG. The thing is, the MREG would be a supporting study to the comprehensive. So the idea is not to be trying to mesh them together.
Somebody's hot flashing, because it's
MREG.
like freezing
There's a
me
new
here.
MREG that needs to be done.
Somebody's got to crank down.
Comes supporting data to the plan, and whatever is in the new supporting data
Yeah,
that
you're
is
right.
good,
'Cause they
that's
look about
what you
that
do
age.
as a plan.
Right, but
But
that's
trying to mesh them together or whatever, you're
Oh,
going
you
crazy.
took the old dirty one, you didn't take the one off the,
Did you
that's
read
my
all
net,
the
she had just lost it.
agenda?
That's my
Read
net.
the agenda where he said.
Oh, it's
This is-
that.
this is-
Oh, it's got potty.
How is that helping you assess the
Yes,
MREG? Intent was try to
Well, I
help
had
you.
that other little,
I mean, that's,
that one I got from the
It's like you're
Peruvian
going off
guys
and
at the
doing
fair the
different
year
things.
before, you didn't see that one? It has a hood and everything.
I thought when his,
I bought the reason they just came out originally.
State of Florida.
I wouldn't hear it.
You watch when we went and did this, we got into detail in some of the areas.
Basically.
The idea was to go and print out particular
I went once to
detailed
pick up my driving.
explanation in the,
She goes,
that
last
was
night.
the original
I said, Cecilia, bed.
comment
there-
that was.
So what you wanna do is
S-I-L-I.
look at
She
the
was writing
changes
it.
that were made in
She
the
stopped and she looked at me and she
comprehensive
says,
plan, if they have
M-I-P-I-Q-I.
and then revise the MREG.
You just thought I was messing with her, right?
Regulate,
Like, no,
you
but
cannot
that's smart.
regulate agriculture.
yeah, I think you're a step or two ahead. because
Every
you
letter
got
now
counsel
is with an
for
I
right
after it.
there before you even look at it.
Yeah, I remember we went to.
Right, I mean, that's just, I think we're doing it out of sequence.
And that's why I brought it with me, just in
What-
case, because I don't know where everybody's gonna go today, you know, with this issue. But I wanted to have it,
I wanna play.
Okay.
because if I, and so I went and just printed 3.
And don't forget, it also makes me a little
copies.
uneasy because we still haven't heard from you.
Well, you gotta tell us what you want, and,
Have you got names?
We didn't, no, we don't have a letter that says that they got
But
it.
does it fit in?
It's still not official.
Oh, that I didn't know.
I mean,
I
it should
thought
be
it
coming
was
any
finished.
day, but I can't say when.
But the council is finished with it, if they,
Yeah.
it was the
Council,
second
the
review.
council,
Yes.
the council has adopted it, and we've sent it up to send it up to the state. I mean,
So
the
the
fact
part-
that we made essentially no changes between the first and second reading means that they're just gonna do nothing with it.
That's the
That's
problem.
always a problem.
But we need to, we don't have the letter
developed
from them saying yes,
several contracts,
which they will.
and as a developer.
Are we all back actually? No, it feels empty, but that's because we've lost the other two.
Three, we lost three.
We lost 3, that's right.
Okay.
Don't go crazy.
Oh, yeah, well,
Because once you start establishing boundaries,
Thanks for coming.
Try that again.
you're gonna
Take care.
roots and all that, and say we're
Tell
gonna
them.
farm, and then all of a sudden you get to a point where.
Night, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Freezing.
Goodbye, Jim.
Are we ready to start back up again? Here we go, starting up again. So we were already in our, beginning our MREG discussion of MREG items. Who would like to start that off?
not me.
Not you. Smart thing.
Back in September, I became a member of this board, on this committee, and was shared that in October, meeting, we will be discussing MREG and the use plan. It was deferred till November's meeting, to which I heard a member of council, a member of town management suggest that we were looking at consistency between the two packages. And on that basis, I went ahead and just simply took the recommendations of MREG and tried to find parts of the comp plan that might refer to it for discussion. So I created a series of notes. After January's meeting being canceled due to lack of quorum, I simply sent it to the management's office because I thought someone might benefit from this information since it was requested. I did not realize it was going to come in part of the agenda, but I wrote notes on the future land use elements and the transportation elements that were provided us from town management in the form of an email in early January, and just made some notes, and whether they are indeed correct consistency with each other or not is for our discussion. So I looked at it as, here's a report, here's the recommendations, address the recommendations. So if that's what the committee wants to do, we can do that, or however we want to discuss consistency of it. Tell me, and I'll discuss.
I think that's a great idea, because I'm kind of, that's the same way I was trying to approach it as well, is just seeing where they match, where they didn't match. I mean, I kind of actually got stuck on one particular thing, so I'm not gonna be as helpful as I would like to be on a lot of the things, but I you know, I know Keith is, if he says he's gone over it, I know he has, and it's a good way, I think, for us to start seeing if there are consistencies or not.
My concern was a little bit, and I appreciate the work you've done, Keith, very much so. I actually, when they originally sent out the transportation element, had called up town office because I was concerned that the transportation element that was being sent out was, of course, at the time, the correct one, but however, we had worked it over, as we all know, with the P&Z and ourselves, and had been approved once by the council, and then went up to the various departments. In the meantime, it has come back, has been approved a second time, which means that's it for the council, other than I was just told that the Department of Economic Opportunities, I thought it was back from all agencies. And apparently, they haven't written us back yet.
That's correct.
I was just informed of that by Jim Fleischman and Mark Cutty. So, what's the likelihood of it changing from what we had written, Mark?
Well, I doubt there's gonna be any significant change, if at all. It might just be, we approve it.
Right. So, what I did is there were two very minor changes, I think a little bit in our description of the RETGAC committee, that along the lines of that we're not employing ourselves forever, as Jim's words were. And then there was an and/or that was added somewhere, but none of that would affect any of our revision of how does it work with the MREG, as far as I know. Would you agree with that, Mark?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what I did is I tried to print out, I just managed to, actually, Lawrence just brought me the last one. We need to kind of share a little bit so that between the three. So this is basically what was without, you can share with her, right?
That's all right, I'm good.
Yeah. What was without the last two minor changes, but all of the underlined, all of the blue and the yellow underlined remarks and changes are correct. So we can go by that and it's easy to look up. You've already done the objectives. If we needed to go, for example, in objective 2.3, there's a little bit of an addition there. So we can look it up very easily and see what that is.
Yeah, this was just basically taking the recommendations of the report and finding something that sounds close, so that it would be easier for me to try to discuss it.
Right. So how do we want to proceed? as the chairperson of the, well, I don't want to keep, this MREC's been, we've had it in our committee a few times. And I wasn't quite sure whether everybody was a little wary of this document. It is an older, outdated document. It is something where, traffic studies, where you almost need to be an analyst to go through it. And I didn't want to feel like I was, even though, something that was brought up when we tried to be more specific in the comp plan, that should be something that we should probably elaborate on more in the MREC to support the comp plan, and whether we wanted to look at it, and we had said yes, and that's how it showed up. But I didn't want to feel like I was shoving it down everybody's throat either. So that's why I'm stepping back a little bit and kind of trying to figure out what it is that you guys want to go forward with this document, rather than me saying, I made my suggestions before of saying, what is the purpose of the document? Let's figure that out. What is obsolete? Let's scratch that out. What is, do we go to the council and simply say, should we revise this document, and we as the committee would like to keep this, it was created originally in order to get the lights on F Road and on B Road. So maybe the focus has changed for this document of what it actually should be.
This document is obsolete. There is no point in rehashing it. Either our comprehensive plan is indeed comprehensive, and if not, that's where we should focus our attention. This document is not necessary. I've said this before, and if we didn't have this other stuff on the agenda, I would not be here.
If I can, Madam Chair, let me see if I can offer, that was a very good, cogent statement. I think the committee needs to decide what its objective is. I don't think at this point in time the committee should be trying to revise a document that is a town-adopted document promulgated by the town council, unless you go to the town council first and see if that's what they want. Or maybe you go to the town council and you say, the committee feels that the MREG is outdated, as Kathy has indicated, and we think you need to commence a new effort and do a new MREG. Or, as a supporting study to the traffic element of the comprehensive plan.
I would like to say that in one of our committee meetings where we were in the other room, we were told that we were being requested by the council to review this document.
For consistency.
Yes. So that is not the case, and there's no reason we should be doing it.
I have to agree, because when I read it, and being a new resident, I can tell that it's outdated. And I don't understand how it fits in with the Trails program at all. At all. And maybe just a fresh pair of eyes on it is maybe what you need, but I don't see it at all.
My greatest problem with the MREC thus far in the existence of this committee, and some of you have been there and some of you haven't, has been that the MREC plan got thrown at our heads quite often. We have in the meantime, we have elaborated on the original horse trail, and it should be incorporated. If the MREG plan doesn't completely get thrown out, if it exists, it should be incorporated into it. The same thing with the traffic. The traffic has, what this town wants when they're suggesting a D road light is different than suggesting a B and an F road light. It is.
But everything has changed, that's the whole point.
Right.
This document does not reflect 2014.
And
What's happening now?
we've evolved from 2009.
But before we actually touched the transportation part of the, when it was back then with planning and zoning, and I had to explain to them, look, we've done more than what it says here. You know, planning and zoning was going by what the MREG says,
Okay,
you know,
then,
that's
then,
just
then,
as an example.
then.
How should they do otherwise?
But nobody wants it, nobody has requested that we tackle this.
Is it our responsibility? Should we hand it to the town council?
No, we are an advisory committee. We respond to them.
My point being is, right, so is that, so for an outdated MREG, should we be doing work on it that, I mean, if we're spinning our wheels.
Well, it sounds like you're all agreeing that it's outdated, so it sounds to me like you have a collective consensus to take a motion or do whatever.
That's what
You know,
One of the things that we also want to kind of consider is that we have a bill. I guess there were some Scrivener's errors in it, but other than that, this bill is going, is in Tallahassee now, and it's starting up in a couple of days. Once we have that bill back, you know, we have the possibility of opening up 30 miles of trails on the canal easements. You know, little by little, I'm not talking all at once, and maybe one road wants it and another road doesn't, but, you know, we can create that cohesive trail that we spoke about in the changes that we made on the transportation element. With that said, we are going to be too late for the grant that we had applied for, what was it? How long was it ago? Maybe a year or 2 years now. I'm losing track of
We
time.
cannot apply for that grant this
Correct,
year.
Correct, let me finish, that's because it's March, you would have had to have the
No,
application
it
in
has
March.
nothing to do with timeline. It has to do with no oversight.
yeah, land control, you're right.
The land control.
Yeah.
The town does not control.
Yes,
the
yes,
easement.
yes,
No, water district.
that's what the bill was providing.
Right, but she's saying right now you can't do anything in the bill's prospective.
Which is
in nature.
what I was saying, we can't do it because it comes through, the bill comes through, if it is approved and it passes, it comes through too late for that particular grant. So we're both saying the same thing.
Yes.
What may be coming forward next is the FERDAP. And the FERDAP I was concerned about for a while because they weren't handing out money for a little while. Now Jim Fleischman has mentioned to me I believe in fall it was, that yes, he has now seen people apply and receive money again.
Mhm.
So that would be our next deadline to work towards for a grant, provided the bill comes through as you know, as
Well, when is
would
the
be helpful
FERDAP,
for those.
when is the
The
application?
FERDAP is in fall, if I remember correctly, and we would have to look into that when that is. And you know, the MREG as an adopted document then do we then have it as part,
Can we divorce ourselves from it?
that's the, yeah.
It's a
Thank you, that's the-
historical document.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But right now, it's still an adopted document, so we need to make some sort of recommendation to the council.
But all it
Or
is
ask
a
them-
supporting study to the plan though.
Right.
The plan is the numero uno document. The MREG doesn't supersede the plan.
Right.
So, kind of like what Kathy's saying, it's actually a supporting document that's pretty much out of date and not really impacting anything unless there's a desire to have another supporting study that updates that can be used to update the plan.
And whose dollars will we be using for that?
Well, this document was
That's good.
$60,000 last time, believe it or not. Believe it or not.
And maybe you don't want that study to say that, maybe you don't want another MREG to do the same thing.
I was just gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah.
do we ask for it, or do we let sleeping lions lie? I mean, if it's outdated and it's something that can go away and we can move forward and not raise any,
So,
spend money or raise any, doubt that this is a good plan that's already implemented, ready to go, why would we
there's a couple things, so we could actually
turn left, turn
create,
right?
we could create a separate trail plan that has nothing to do with the MREG.
Which we have done.
Right,
Already,
yeah, I mean,
Well, when Lily was writing the previous grant, we submitted, Bill and I both, the vision for the trails.
mhm,
I mean, we had it then.
mhm.
So, I mean,
It was never something that I think we didn't really completely finalize it, but yes, we all know what, you know, we weren't very specific in certain areas, but yes, there is, we all know it's basically on all
on
the
all the easements,
easements
we know.
that are for the canal maintenance.
Okay,
So-
so can we let the MREG go for a while?
Then there's one more issue, and that is the development around us. Whether or not we want to revise this document to try to protect us a little bit, that would be one way we could potentially use it, because right now,
I'm
as
sorry,
analyzing
I don't
it,
understand the development around us, I'm not clear.
developments
No,
around us,
Minto,
everything
yeah.
from,
Okay.
from Highland Dunes to GL Homes to Minto to, there's a huge amount of development around us.
How would
How would
that, how would that work when you're dealing with, roads that are not even owned by this town that are in support? This roadway plan does not address Okeechobee Boulevard, it does not address Pratt Whitney, it does not address Southern Boulevard.
It actually does, I mean, it does address Okeechobee, except, I mean, in the sense of that we wanted lights. It brings up solutions for Okeechobee, it brings up roundabouts, it brings up lights. What it doesn't bring up, which really surprised me, because the study, when I read it, and the data was accurate way back when, would have encouraged two other things, which is stop signs or possibly the request to own Okeechobee. You know, those things were not suggestions made by Giordano.
Okay, all this aside,
Mhm.
solving the problems of our many roads. The council has not requested that we review this document at all.
Right, so the question is, should we ask whether or not they wish to update it or do away with it? Or should we just,
Or what do they wanna do?
yeah,
Yeah,
If they haven't asked us, they haven't asked.
no,
Well, you know, the problem is, I think, to some extent, and maybe you need to have this discussion with them. You know, they're kind of, there's not they're divided on it. And when I say they're divided, we have a couple council members that have a conflict, have declared a conflict. We have the mayor who has a very strong position against the other developments. I think Councilman Rocket shares his opinion. I'm not sure where Vice Mayor Gerald lies, but they haven't taken one motion to say, okay, we want to do A, B, C, and D as it relates to these developments. The mayor is going to, on his own, do what he needs to do to try to fight for his interests and the town's interest as it relates to those developments. So you need to be careful, there's no,
but let's not put everybody into one boat. When
didn't
it
do
comes
that.
to Minto, well, when it comes to Minto, that's correct. We have two councilmen that have recused themselves, Liang, because they own
Yes.
several lakes there and have ties with
all right.
the original Callery judge, and Tom Goldsonay, because he has currently
That's irrelevant,
housed.
let's not get into
yeah,
this,
whatever.
I don't wanna get into specifics, but what,
But the point is, we're not just talking about Minto. This is not just about Minto. In reference to the other things, I mean, we had hired.
but have you heard them talk about the others? I haven't. I want you to show me where, that's why I said Minto. Now, if you want to expand the discussion to the other developments, yes, you
Well,
are,
Highland Dunes is a perfect example. We sent over, we.
but that's a
paid our
done,
attorney
Highland
to do
Dunes
that.
is done, I'm talking about Abenar and, Abenar, whatever, oh, sorry.
Avenir.
Avenir.
And GL Homes.
Yeah.
I'll buy an hour.
They haven't had those discussions.
So, okay, then either,
So, I mean, it's right, that's what I'm trying to say. You know,
the
you
thing
can-
is, the MREG was a real quick document developed in crisis over Callery Judge. you know, to support what we wanted to see happen here. And I think something similar may occur further down the road.
Was this not earlier than, I mean, that was already.
Well, you know, with Calvary Judge, we've had several, over the years, several conflicts with them. And this isn't gonna do it at all. I mean, it's like start from scratch, because there's no documentation, there are no current studies. So even to have it match the comprehensive plan, it's just not gonna work because we don't have the data. We don't have it. And this isn't good.
So what do you guys wanna do? Just, I need a motion or more thought.
Town council hasn't requested us to do this, but town councilman Dulcinea sat there in our November meeting and said that they wanted a consistency review of the two documents. And if they don't want it, and it's outdated, and they hadn't specifically asked the committee to do it, why do we have to do anything? We just wait until they make a request.
Exactly.
We still need to either say,
I move
do I
that
need a
we,
motion? Or do I not?
no,
Okay.
I move that we discontinue any discussion on the MRIG until such time as we are given direction.
Okay.
A second.
Discussion?
Yeah, discussion? I would like to bring up to the council that it is in conflict right now, and that they need to decide what, I mean, leaving it like this as an active document, is that harmful?
A lot
I mean,
of,
as a
a lot of
conflict.
municipalities have outdated documents still on their rolls.
The only, yeah, if you're asking, could a developer look at the MREG and do something? I don't know. I'd have to take a much more specific look to see if there's anything in there that would assist them. What would that do for them, especially the ones like Minto and Bowers?
The only thing they could look at is the recommendations.
And don't forget that MREG does not carry the weight that the comprehensive plan carries.
Right.
So I doubt there's anything they could really.
Well, there's the 4-laning of Okeechobee for one.
I honestly think 4 lanes at slower speed limit would be good for Okeechobee.
Build the roads, and traffic will come.
Well, I think,
Unless you make a bridge in Alaska.
Wait, what did you say?
Build the roads and the traffic will come. That's what the saying is in most.
that's true.
Yeah, that's
But
why
less,
27 so
but
busy.
less dangerous and less, I mean, you're gonna have traffic down in Okeechobee whether you like it or not. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, but I don't see any way around it. And if you make it just unbearable for them to drive on, they'll find another way to go, so they're not.
Let me make the suggestion, you have a motion to discontinue, you can always vote on that, and then if you want to come up with a second motion, if there's, discontinuing the review of the MREG, the second motion might be, are you going to advise council or ask council anything? That would be maybe, if you are so inclined.
Yeah,
You should
maybe that would
probably,
be
you should probably
better.
vote on this, and then discuss if you want to do anything else.
I think it's just not to do anything for right now and trying to look at my old notes here.
Shall we vote?
Yeah, what? Can you read the motion back to me one more time?
Kathy moved to discontinue any discussion on MREG until we are given direction.
No, that's good enough. Is everybody ready? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I tell you, I wish I hadn't worked it over like 3 times, but okay. It's almost after you've done that 3 times, you know, it's like, don't.
Well, I keep looking it over saying, am I missing something here? But I don't think so. Okay, so what's next?
Moving on.
5A?
5A. Well, actually, I have a question for you. I had asked you, I know we approved the agenda, I had asked you about the signs. Since I have a comment card here in reference to signs, are we getting there?
We have to go to council and get authorization for the money.
Okay, but are we getting there in reference to talking about it during this meeting? In your update, I was hoping that I would have her comment at that time. Or
Well, you can do our comment anytime, yeah.
we're gonna let him do his update because the public comments are still afterwards. New business, a roadway canal crossing by Keith Harris, Town of Loxahatchee Groves roadway canal crossing, a study and recommendation, Town of Loxahatchee Groves gas tax map, and Town of Loxahatchee Groves vehicular canal crossing photos. Keith?
I had the opportunity to meet with our town's planning technician and our town manager on an episode on 25th Place back in early December. And in a non-related following discussion, it was confirmed by our town manager that the actual roadway canal crossing, whether it be Clear Span Bridge or a culvert bridge, did not belong to the town. And I was like, oh really? Well, who does it belong to? And I was told, go ask the water district. And I asked the water district the same question, and they said, no, what did the town say? And it came to a realization that the town that has some 25 canal crossings serving town roads and various property owners, some 365 properties, I believe is an estimate that I developed through a review of the gas tax map. And the policy is if a culvert or crossing or a clear span bridge has to be repaired or replaced, it's up to the property owners that use that bridge or culvert crossing. And I thought to myself, my goodness, wear and tear on these bridges can cause repair requirements or replacement. The town is maintaining the road by periodic grading through its subcontractor, the water district. They're adding material to the road as required to give a smooth roadway surface. They are having the vendors, Waste Pro, go across these culverts and bridges with their large refuge trucks on multiple times a week. And it seems to me that if the town is collecting gas tax money on these roads, that they should be maintaining all aspects of the road, not just portions of it. They have signage, traffic signage, and identification signage. Many of them are actually on the bridge culvert itself. So I question the fact that a fuel tax, a local fuel option tax revenue, which is designated for the maintenance of roadways, should be also applied to the crossing. And I still get, no, the property owners need to replace it. I live on a road that has 4 property owners. the estimated value of a replacement is $75,000, I would have to pay $18,000. We have some properties that only, some crossings that only have 3 properties. We have one that has 44 properties that use the crossing. We have another one that uses 59. I asked for the excuse me, the words, I'm not that great with words. It should be an equal consideration of all town citizens and properties. If a bridge goes out, it should come out of the town's money, not the individual pockets' money. If it stays that way, coming out of the individual pockets' money, why are we collecting the gas tax funds? So my concern in review of this study is that really the town should accept the responsibility for replacement and repairs of these bridges, clear spans, culvert bridges, whatever they are. They have, you know, I've been in town for 7 years. I have not seen one have to be replaced. I've seen some are currently in disrepair. We've got one on the E-Row in Biddix Lane that's a clear span. You get halfway across the bridge and it narrows 4 feet, 2 feet on each side. If this is a public road, are we not legally liable for a injury that's caused by a bridge that goes halfway across and then narrows 2 feet on each side and goes? So,
Can I ask you, is this 25th Place North, is that the one on North Peak? Is that the one, this one was before
that's on C Road.
C,
Yeah, that's on 25th Place and C Road.
but it says D?
Well, I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses on. That is D. Mhm. So, I would like for the committee to consider who is really responsible for town road bridges. Is it the town or the individuals? If it's individuals, why are we collecting the gas tax money for them? These properties are 365 people, some 365 properties. You put 3 people in a house, it's approximately a third of the population of the town of Watchanacy roads. So I see it needs to be an equitable consideration for all town citizens, and that the town should be funding it. You know, we have Marcella, Bryan, and Compton roads that are now being micro resurfaced, and the town's paying for it. It's an expense, but it's a maintenance expense of roads, and that's what the gas tax revenue is for. And that's the basis. Unfortunately, the agenda did not have the 9-page report. It was sent out in an addendum in an email yesterday, but in it there is an actual table showing the different roads, the different crossings, the roads they serve, and the quantity of properties that is estimated that they do serve. So I thought it needed to be considered if the town is wanting to spend dollars on improvements, you should also have money in place to take care of what you already have. And that's the essence of my presentation with the report.
Well, it's my understanding that the town doesn't have money to pay for all of these. And it must be somewhere in your deed, you know, for some, because I know this went on with that.
It's not on my property. I don't own the property, it's sitting in the canal. The water district simply issues a permit. My bridge belongs to the permit holder. That individual could come and take that bridge out if they wanted to.
Can they take your driveway out?
My driveway
When
does
it
not.
goes over the
It's a lane.
walk, yeah.
I have a 700-foot roadway that comes off of C Road that goes across the canal that serves 4 properties.
Keith, you said 74 of the 90 crossings were permitted.
Yes,
right?
yes.
But you're saying when you checked the data with the district, there wasn't an owner? Because I gotta tell you, when we're doing a culvert replacement now up at Compton, I have to list the town as the owner. So somebody has to be the owner for the district to have permitted it.
There is a name, there was an individual on my particular bridge that no longer exists in this area.
Oh, was he like the property owner before you?
Mhm. So.
So when you bought your property, why didn't you get those rights to that?
It doesn't address that. I looked at my survey and I looked at my deed, and it's,
Having a hard time, what did?
No, you know, this might be like those right-of-way things for the people that are in the middle
The
acres.
flag properties.
No, you know how, people who are on the interior 5 acres
Mhm.
don't have any right-of-way, actually, unless they, some properties,
Have easements or
I have one of
access.
those.
You can't sell a property to
That-
someone
that's
until they're
landlocked. You can't sell a landlocked
can't.
piece of property.
Yeah, you have to give them an easement.
Yeah, that happened years ago, but not now, you're right. Years ago, they used to do some funky things like that.
now I wrote.
yeah. But a lot of people don't have easements legally. They haven't had them perfected.
So the actual old owner of the other property could come and stick his fence post up there and say,
Yeah,
done.
stick a gate, you know, and that's
Done, you
it.
can't drive back there anymore.
No, but if they've been there so long, it's theirs, their driveway, it's theirs.
Yeah,
If they've been coming in and out of
block.
it for 20 years,
Water's right.
no one can take that from them.
Well, maybe, maybe not. There's a court case going on that very subject matter right now.
Yeah,
Well,
Well,
where
actually-
Keith lives, I'm sorry, you do have to turn off the main road, right, C Road, right? You're on, and go over the canal to get to Keith or any of his other. And I kind of feel like if you're gonna service residents on the other side of the canal, you gotta have a way for them to get in and out of their
If you
Well,
property.
like you said, picking up trash and, you know.
If
well,
you
on D
remember-
Road, the garbage trucks do not go over those.
On mine, they do.
Okay, if you remember 40th, when water control closed out, there were people that had no access. Now, those culverts were paid, I believe, at least a portion, or all, which one was it, by the title companies for the access culverts, yes or no?
You're talking about the 148 culvert,
Right.
is one of the few that town owns, because the town did.
148th, and then there's the other one that is being built right now, that's across from
147.
147.
The town's not doing that one.
Then
The town owns very few things. We own that culvert at 148th, we own some right of way on 22nd. We own Compton, Marsala, and I say own, we have a public use easement for the entire right of way for Marsala, Compton, and Bryant, as you indicated. Through the first legislative act that was done, we have now the portions of North A, North and South C, and North D that were OJM'd. I don't think we have North yet. I would have to verify that. If you may remember, we
No,
filled
it's
in
still partial.
we filled in 2 sections of North and did the OJM on that. And I think that's it right now. Now, the next act is supposed to, as, you know, as the district, well, there's some, I've heard some different opinions, but basically the rest of the roads, the district roads will be coming over to the town. That the district has control over. The question is whether they're gonna try to do the OJM first and give them to us, or as they're OJM'd, or that's still a little bit murky, but. That's what we own.
I have another question for you,
That's what we own.
and that is, this brings me back to something when you guys weren't here yet. Kathy, if you remember, we had a motion at one point in time. As a chair, I don't make motions usually, so there were a few of mine. Bill Lauda made
Go
it.
loud.
In reference, you know exactly where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
In reference to having the council consider whether or not we are actually rightfully collecting gas tax money on some of these roads, whether they are truly
no.
public roads or
And
whether
the
they're
thing
private roads.
is that
So-
if this comes back to bite us, who do you think's gonna have to pay this money back?
Yes, correct. So, I mean, you know, I mean, looking at the list here, and I think there are specific ones that are clearly public use roads, and there are others on that list that are not. Now, I don't know exactly which ones, other than the ones you just told us. I knew about.
Are you saying,
Wait a
when you
second.
say public use road, you mean a road that's servicing a number of properties versus a road that's just like a driveway to somebody's property? Is that the distinction you're making?
That's the distinction I'm making, yes.
It's a
Well,
private
you know,
drive.
if I decided to, and I always
Agreed.
make that joke, that call a road Nina Lane, just because it has a name,
Mhm.
does it, you know, and it brings me to my property, and maybe I let my neighbor in the back and another neighbor in the back use that Nina Lane. What is that Nina Lane? Is that
Easement.
a public road? Well, easement doesn't mean, I mean, just like they have the easement on Compton or Southern, you know. Where does that take us? And where does that take us in reference to all these culverts?
That's what I think a lot of these are. They are private drives used by multiple residents.
When Keith pulled
And a
the,
lot of them are not maintained
Madam
by,
Chair, let me just offer some comments, and hopefully this will help a little bit, without getting, we could be here all night talking about this issue. I guarantee
And you brought it up to the council, I
But when-
remember
When
this.
Keith pulled the pin on that candidate, there are about 25 different issues that relate to that.
Yes.
And let me just give you a couple that we have discovered over time. You know, the town management's opinion has been that, you know, most of our, not the district roads now, that the district have been using since 1918 via their easements and everything, but what's considered non-district or town roads, first of all, they're easements, cobbled together, that's what we said, to form a roadway system.
Yes.
Okay? When you start to go road by road, and we know this only because of the different situations that have popped up over time, not all, the easements are written differently in each deed. Some deeds do a good job, some don't. So you have that situation, you have to interpret what the easement is for and what it's doing. Then we have a number of roads out there where they have these private easements creating this public roadway, and for some reason, they didn't put the roadway over the easements. And you have the roadway going this way while the easement's going that way. I mean, we have so many crazy situations out there.
Yes, you do.
And we've taken the position, and what Keith was talking about when we came to talk to him on his road is, we're trying to develop policies. One thing we thought is, well, maybe if we had everybody, let's say you had a roadway that has 4 property owners. And they have, and parts of their property are used to create this roadway. If they were willing to deed all the easements over to the town, so then the town would have the road. Because it's our opinion, you have to, there's a slight difference of opinion between us and the attorney. We feel you have to own the property to do the improvements. Town attorney has taken a position, a broader legal position that, well, it's been used as a public roadway, so therefore it's a public roadway.
But you haven't gone through the official,
Well, you know, I think you have to own it to be considered, you know, public and to actually do something to it. We're concerned about the liability the town would incur if we went ahead and made improvements on what's still private property, even though it may be used for public ingress egress. So we've said, if you can get, you know, John Doe, if you can get your other 3 neighbors to agree and you want to deed it over to the town, guess what? Then you have a road, and we'll spend public dollars to, you know, fix it or do whatever we have to
Maintain
do. But we have so many of those situations out there. It's, you know, and each one is different. You got to go case by case basis in order to determine how you're going to handle it. It's not, and then, you know, Keith has added the culvert situation, which is, you know, adds another set of circumstances to what's already a really convoluted situation.
My review was based on the road, the gas tax road map. These 25 are shown in highlighted yellow on that map as recipients of gas tax revenue. So the town is collecting money on these 25 roadway canal crossing routes. Whether they're town road, whether they're private road, whether my particular 25th Place and C Road is half mine and half of the property on the other side. It's only 700 feet long, but it's shown on the gas tax map as being considered for the revenue and part of how revenue is developed. And if you're collecting gas tax revenue that's specifically for maintenance of roads, you can't say, well, I'm gonna put some gravel on it, and I'm gonna grade it, and I'm gonna put a street sign on it, but there's a bridge, I'm not gonna touch that.
Keith, that's
Keith, you're
exactly-
fundamentally right, but just remember the one thing,
Yeah.
there's a difference between the 5 and the 6. The 5 is why we went through that whole exercise in the CIE, because there you have to be doing actually a capital-related projects, not just maintenance, you know. And then they've kind of loosened that statute up a little bit, that you can, certain maintenance-type activities qualify under the 5 cent. But the one thing to remember is, you know, we don't have a lot of, I mean, we get gas tax money, but it only comes to the 5 cent generates $117,326 for this budget. The first local option, 6 cent, generates $249,245. That's really not a lot of dollars if you get into a major infrastructure type situation. So that's something that's a broader picture that we would have to look at
Right.
as to how we're gonna address that.
On my particular road, bringing it up as a personal point, but also with other things, I was gonna spend $18,000 to replace that bridge culvert. If I had bought property off of C Road and Roberts Way, there have been 44 other properties, and I'd only be paying $1,200 to replace that culvert.
Well, there's definitely an
And that is, I wanted to bring it up for the town council's consideration to, you know, if you want to become a town and be permanent, you know, it's just like, my next thing is getting U-Haul out of town hall or giving us a sole municipal headquarters. And that should be on a higher tier than the bottom one, but that's another story. And I just ma'am.
Just to give you the final of what our motion actually was, our suggestion was that to give people a period of time where we were still going to maintain their roadways, but within that time where they're going to have together, and I don't remember exactly.
I think he said,
they were
I think the
supposed to
motion was he wanted
it was
no
like 2 to
public
3
funds
months.
spent until the
Right.
situation was resolved, or something to that effect.
But
remember?
you had a
Yes.
short period of time where things were still going to stay the same until the road maintenance was going to stop. If I remember correctly, because there was this cold turkey, we didn't want anybody to be surprised the roads weren't going to be taken care of anymore. We wanted them to have some transition time. If I
Well,
remember.
here's another thing too, I mean,
But that was the recommendation we made to the council. He made the recommendation to the council and it just died. It didn't do anything, they're just
As most things.
but remember I said we could talk about this all night because there's like 25 different issues? Let me give you another one that crops up with this. And you know, that is that, we, never mind, go ahead.
The sign.
Let me wait, I might be better to talk about that one.
I do not want you to get into trouble.
No. All right, let me say it, the gas tax. The gas tax, people have complained, we set up a plan with the water control district, they are our provider to do road repair and road maintenance. And we thought, okay, we'll set the town up into 4 quadrants, and we'll make sure that we go through and we do a pass on each quadrant, and we grade each road to make sure that, and then we'll know, and we'll have some baseline data for what roads need to be graded on a continual basis, or, you know, what roads are in good shape. Well, when we did that, apparently the district entered some roads that previously hadn't been graded, maybe never. And we had some people that have come in and they're mad at us and they're saying, we want off the gas tax map. I'm like, well, okay, if that's what you want, I mean, we'll look at that. Obviously, if there are I guess if you own the whole road, if you had property on both sides, you could probably do that right off the bat. But if there are other property owners on it, then you have to work with them to get their, just like with your road, if, you know, you all said, well, we want off the gas tax, well, I think all 4 of you would have to agree before the town could consider
But the
that.
road stops.
Or vice
Before you
versa.
get to, on my particular case, it's been revealed that the road actually stops after the first 2 properties, one being on each side.
That's
of the
what I
road,
said,
north and
case by
south.
case basis.
And so, really, on that case, only 2 properties are involved. Not the other 2, they simply have egress through an easement for no landlocked statute.
Mhm.
So would that case be where only the 2 properties would have to dedicate it, or would you have to have all 4 users, even though that they're not part of the road?
Well, we just got the new maps. Got them today, in fact, at the League of Cities, and we have till April 30th to basically review the maps and indicate what the situation is. We've had some people that have come in over the last several months that have asked to be off, and we need to take a look at everything. Council's also taken a policy, I think, based upon the attorney's advice, that obviously if somebody puts up a gate or, you know, cuts off access, I guess like one of these driveway situations, we've taken those off if they've been.
Well, driveways and actual
Yeah, I mean, that's a no-brainer, that's the easy
roadways
one.
are different things, and, you know, 25 out of the 90 is indicating that we're looking at actual road conditions, not a private driveway that's got a name on it. I'm concerned that the town, I did not want to go to Department of Revenue, I did not want to go to Inspector General, or anybody for an opinion, because I know the town doesn't own the roads. Now, the fact they have right of way, is that sufficient enough to be able to collect the gas tax on that particular road, or is the town supposed to own that road in order to qualify to receive gas tax money for that particular road?
Good question. Good question.
So what do we do with this now? I mean, and there are other issues too, whether it's the culverts, you know, that people pay for privately, and then the road material, because of the slant of the road, washes into it, and it damages the culvert, and then you have to ask for a new permit, and you have to pay for your culvert again. That's the issues more so for the people on the roadside versus the people on the other side that have to deal with the culvert issues. There are the issues of the mower, you know, my culvert, for example, the mower is just cut the end of it off. You don't see it unless you're on the other side. There are, you know, it's, you have several of these issues floating around. I don't know how to deal with this, the way it stands,
You mean for tonight?
for tonight.
Yeah. Well, what is, I guess I would ask Keith, what is, are you looking for a motion, or what are you looking for?
I was wanting to idealistically get a motion to go to town council to consider taking financial responsibility for repairs and replacements of the bridges, culverts, or any roads shown on the gas tax map. I have 4 times a week, I have a very large, heavyweight truck going across that culvert to provide services. I'm having once a month a water district grader of weight going across it. And I have a property 2 doors down that lost a culvert bridge due to a Rinker concrete truck going across it, which, you know, is showing wear and tear. My particular situation on 25th Place and C Road also has had damage occur to the south side of the bridge slash culvert during sectioning of the canal by the water district. Their equipment got too close proximity, and we lost the retaining riprap wall. So in my case, I'm looking very closely.
Was it repaired?
Huh?
Was it repaired?
The previous administrator said that the road did not meet DOT standards, so he didn't have to do anything, and then eventually put some large rock against it.
That would be cool.
I was trying to be polite.
He's gone.
There's also,
And as a result, on the north end, my riprap wall is starting to break down from the wear and tear, and I've seen an eventual collapse occur.
well, you also, just so you know, to add to your list of things, you have the people on the other side of these culverts allowing the roads to encroach on their private property in order to allow for the turning radius to
That's
go
true, too.
across roads like Biddix. Biddix during the storm, that Isaac was absolutely underwater. You saw the sign and you saw the canal. You saw no road. It was like this much underwater. And you can see, you know, and you know, look at that person across from that culvert, you know, how kind they're being, allowing every truck to just kind of pull more and more out of their property for them to access their land. And there's a lot of give and take here. You know, amongst the people in Loxahatchee Groves, we have this, and it's worked thus far because we are such a small community. You know, that we're all just like, oh, you know, it's my neighbor, we give a little, we get a little. But, you know, it's.
Until they don't get along anymore.
Right.
Which brought
That's
this,
it.
which
Yeah.
which brought this study up in the
Fences
first
make
place.
good neighbors.
Yeah.
But I was looking for to start a discussion for the town to look at its infrastructure and protecting it. And this is one of the components. It serves basically a third of the population. It is receiving state revenue to maintain it, and the town is, in my case, I don't know about others, is allowing heavy equipment to go across it, and I know firsthand experience of a failure due to heavy equipment.
Can you put a sign up there that says ton limit?
Well, the town's got their own identification sign right there on the middle of it. I had to pay $26.50 to pull it down to allow a large trailer to come into my facility and put it back. So, you know.
Because the town has traffic control authority.
Yes. So the town has a lot of control over it, but they're saying, well, we're responsible for this, but we're not responsible for that.
Let me
And
ask-
I think it's time for the town to be responsible for these culverts.
Let me ask you how this is different from, let's say, if somebody is building, you know, there was, for example, the equestrian property that was built on the bottom of E just before collecting canal.
Mhm.
You know, they build their culvert to go to their property, and in that case, it's just their property.
Mhm.
You know, how is that culvert different from the culvert that leads to 3 people?
Here's a better consideration. There are 2 bridge culverts on Connecting Canal and D Road. Who owns them? Who has to repair them and who has to replace them?
Is it similar the way that you work with drainage? You know, who deals with the drainage?
Well, that's why I was saying, you know, I was looking at just the numbers that Keith advised here in his report. I mean, the district, you know, I used to always hear the district say that a lot of these culverts were not permitted, but it looks like 74 out of 90 were permitted, so that's a good percentage.
59 are bridge culverts and 15 are actual clear spans.
Right. I would imagine out of those 59 bridge culverts, you could have any combination of factors. You might have it might be an extension of somebody's property, it might be like the situation you're talking about. I mean, who knows?
But based on the gas tax indication map, these 25 are
That's the
receiving
difference.
gas tax. It's not just somebody's access to canal to own property like Arlene White on C Road who lost her due to a Rinker concrete truck going across. She had to put out $70,000 of her own money to get back onto her own property. And I just think that if the town is collecting gas tax monies and using these roads to help collect that money, the town should be
Well,
accountable.
My advice to you is that's a policy decision. Whether this committee wants to make a recommendation to the council, that's the first thing you would have to decide. And then that'd have to be brought to council. And they're gonna
Well,
talk
not
about
me,
that.
but everybody.
Well, yeah, I don't mean you, I mean you. Sorry, I didn't mean to make that look like.
Yes, Anita, you named Anita's place, it's your road, you're responsible.
Nina got worried, she thought I was.
Looking straight at
So
me
it
and saying.
is.
Okay,
Looking
so,
at you,
I mean,
Donna.
Kathy has a valid point of expense, you have a valid point of expense. We're collecting gas tax money, we had already made a recommendation, a reference to the gas tax money. What do you want to do?
Well, I don't know that this is, when you look at our function, we're supposed to be advising the council on issues that they have asked us to consider. So this is a personal agenda
Mhm.
that should not come from us.
Okay. That's a valid consideration. I was looking at it, if it's a roadway situation, it should go to the roadway committee instead of going to town council, but I can pull this away without
Yeah.
requesting any action and take it to town council. It will require me to have a member of town council to endorse it to go into the agenda. Is that correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so now I've got to find a town councilman that would put this on the agenda for me.
Well, I think Jim Rocket, since he has a brand new culvert,
You could,
might be the one.
you could bring up anything under public comment, but they just won't act on it that night. It would have to then fall to another meeting. You can do it that way.
Yes, I've had that done before.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's,
Okay.
that way you don't have to hunt for a council member to, you know.
Oh, well, may I offer this? I would like to withdraw any further consideration of this and take it personally, as is a personal agenda, but with the town's, I think it's in the town's interest to study and review it.
And let me say this to you, because the FAAC actually discussed this, the Finance Committee discussed this on Monday. They're gonna be doing a report next Tuesday, because they're, you know, the council approves the financial statements and everything. And they have a PowerPoint that they're going to be showing, and it's kind of addressing a lot of these issues as it relates to roadways and from a fiscal standpoint, you know, do we have enough revenue? Are we generating enough revenues to do what we have to do as a town, that kind of thing. So you might wanna be there Tuesday, listen to that before you get up, and then that might help you in your decision process as to how you address it.
All right, I appreciate that. I hope I haven't wasted the time of the committee.
Oh.
As it's a personal, it is a personal item as it affects me, but it also affects
Many others.
many others, and I don't want to cause the town to lose gas tax revenue, but same token, you know, so I was just trying to channel it, and y'all are kind enough to put up channel markers, and now I know which way to go.
As the chair indicated, we did have a discussion like this, I guess it was back in February. Councilman Golsonay, you know, thought it was a very important issue, and I mean, I think it was in the bigger room out there, and that's when former member Lauda made his motion that the chair is talking about. So, and we kind of covered in pretty much great detail what was happening at that time, but that's a very fluid situation. It's constantly changing month by month, you know, based upon what we
Oh,
find
the
out.
ownership of the roads?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
the
selling
things that people come in to talk to us about and things that are happening. Usually, I would say 9 out of 10 times it emanates from neighbors fighting. That's where we have to play referee. At least they try to want us to play referee. And sometimes I don't feel it's our responsibility, because we really don't, you know, we don't really have a stake in it. They really have to kind of come together before we can even offer some kind of solution.
And in reference to the personal matter, I mean, you could almost say that, well, we all ride horses, so, you know, the equestrian trails are a personal matter. So, you know, don't take that too far. I mean, this is affecting many people.
I wouldn't take it there at all. You know, when I take it elsewhere, it's not going to be that way at all. I was referring to the company that's in attendance.
Right. Okay, I just don't think really, with all of the issues that go into this, that we really have the power to
Good, I
make
just
any
was
decent decisions.
trying to
for
start a
you.
dialogue, basically. I've had to do that before.
All right, so,
Thank you.
keep having to go back and forth through my agenda here. Trying to get the right one.
Pretty pictures.
I know.
Okay.
Especially 'cause this is weird.
5B of new business, FDOT State Road 80 project update, receive and file.
Right, this was, the chair had asked that we provide the committee with the PowerPoint that FDOT provided at, I guess it was our February 4th meeting.
Yes.
So we put it in there, and
Thought we were
feel free
talking
to,
about signs.
you got the information now, and.
This is just an update?
This is just for us to be
Receive and
all
file for you.
educated.
Good.
And anybody who wants to ask further questions, by the way, the Landowner Association, I believe, has their meeting with them.
Yeah, they're,
I think
right,
it's
I think
tomorrow,
they're
isn't it?
coming, yeah, I think they're coming to the landowners tomorrow.
Yeah.
There's some neat issues here in the design criteria. If they build it the way they're suggesting, there's some neat things. There was a concern about we would no longer be able to turn left off of Dean and go east on Southern. Well, that crossover is left, as it exists, so you will be able to pull up there and turn left. They are putting in a 180-degree turnaround in front of Shell Station, which will allow traffic from the plaza, from the post office, from the grocery store, and Shell to immediately go to the median and do a 180 and go eastbound. So you won't have to run all the way down to B Road to turn around and come back. Another nice item is they have indicated that they are putting at B and F Road intersections a controlled crossing along with the light for pedestrian and equestrian activation.
Within the equestrian button up on top. So the question is,
So-
where do we end up on the other side? But that would be something we would need to address, and with Wellington.
Good, good.
So
Okay.
those are some neat things.
And you will have the same on F Road, I
Yes.
believe.
B and F.
You know. F Road there's that little bit of a bridge, and then you actually have access to the trails right there. It's a little bit of shorter distance than on B Road. Also, I asked them after they had presented in reference to B Road, with some of the numbers that are going to be coming about as our developments are progressing. And they hinted on that they are just not capable of counting any of these numbers in yet because they're not actually physically there yet.
You talked to the Stantec guys, right?
Which is a little bit of a concern for me because of the cost that you have later on to go and change things. And I'm not sure who ends up, do you know who ends up being responsible for those costs?
I don't at this point.
And is that something that we ought to, I mean, you know, that you might investigate further and then find out whether that is something that we need to give towards the
Well,
developers? rather than-
Tomas Ruiz is very good. I mean, you call him, he'll try to get you on the information. So, I mean, any kind of issues that, you know, I can always try to call him and see what he can, you know, of course, he has to work through FOB because he's a hired gun. He's a consultant, so. you know.
But the cost factor, who are they going to look towards when that's then built, so that we certainly don't get caught in it?
Right now, I don't think we're responsible for any costs.
No, I mean, when they've built it and now it's not enough, with, you know, to get everybody out, and you need to make changes.
You mean as a result of all the developments?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen the numbers, but I would think that they are probably building this to accommodate all those numbers, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that's been coordinated, to tell you the truth. I mean, you know, they're building the road based on previous projections. I mean, it's not going until 2017.
Right.
That's when they expect to be, you know, building in this section of Waxahachie.
Okay. All right, moving on to administrative updates.
Okay, the first one you asked about the signs, so let me cover the signs. We have a number of issues where council has authorized some things, but, and I told you we would go ahead and we'll do the signs, but the issue is, the equestrian signs are not covered by gas tax, so we have to try to see where we can find monies in the budget so that we can do that. And that'll be, and there's a couple other issues that we have to bring to council relative to finance and where they're gonna finance, certain projects that they wanna undertake, so.
Let me ask you a question. We have 3 signs. We have the diamond sign, which is the be careful, horses on the road, which, does that one qualify?
I don't think any of them qualify for gas tax.
And that we have, just so, we have the road, the entrances to Loxahatchee Groves, the signs that you had looked for. You only found 1 left.
There's
Is that correct?
There's no signs.
Okay.
They're
Those I can understand are separate. They were, back then, they were funded originally by individual farms, and I mean, at this point, I think we would like to see them
Yeah.
funded by the town. And then there are the trailheads that I think is a complete separate issue. Reference.
I think the ones we want first are the general signs, the welcome signs, right? Those are the ones that, you said they were at every intersection and now they're gone?
I would really like
I
to
don't-
speak during old business because I put my ticket in. And
This,
this is why I've been
This
sitting
item-
here all night for
Okay.
this particular item.
go ahead.
Mark, I've noticed on the signs, Mark, it does say sponsored by, and I was wondering about that, because those signs are really big, and they are welcome to Loxahatchee Equine Community signs, and I did notice that, because I was wondering.
You mean the old signs were all
Yeah.
sponsored by somebody?
Well, the big brown sign on the
Yeah.
end by D Road, it did say sponsored by one of the real estates or something like that. And we might be able to get some of the local businesses maybe to take a sign. But, you know, when I was at the last meeting, it seemed like they were talking about just like a small sign. And it would be nice to have at the entrances, you know, especially off of Southern, you know, a nice welcome
Big
equine community.
Yeah.
And that's why I've been here, because at Joe's very first, I think, committee meeting, we talked about the signs. And we were going with the signs, and I just feel that since the trails are kind of at a, you know, nothing's really visibly happening, that it's important to get those equine signs out there, because I'm riding on the road. So, and so are a lot of other people. And I was wondering, what does anybody suggest about adding it in Spanish?
We can't even get what we want in English, and it took us a couple hours to get this all hashed out. So, I'm thinking, no.
No, in Spanish.
No, it's just that
Well, it's
the brown
simple.
signs,
Yeah.
as nice as they are, as you're whizzing past those, you can't read them all.
No, there
You
weren't
have
great
to stop,
signs.
read it. So to have it be bilingual also, not only would that be a
Well, it
horrendously big
says slow
sign.
caballo or something like that.
Well,
Slow
honestly,
horse.
the diamond
So, I
is the
mean-
one that I was concerned that I felt would
Yeah,
possibly.
but those
this
tell,
one, Mark, the diamond.
those
was the
tell
one
me
I
that
thought.
it's a horse crossing. That's what those look
It
like
says
to me.
careful horse,
Well, the
careful
other one,
riders.
But I
Well,
thought
it
it was the
doesn't
brown
say
one that you
anything.
wanted. The brown is what you wanted,
We
right?
need all three eventually. It's this one we want in all the entrances, is to make
Right.
sure that
The
these
brown.
are in visual,
At like the
visible
street
places.
crossings, right?
Street crossings, or
Right.
even, because there will only be so many of these, so these are still going to be important.
Well,
And then you will have the, let me see,
well, you know the one that I brought in the sample of?
yeah,
Now that would take the place of the brown one, only because the brown one is too wordy. People aren't gonna get it, other than the slow for horses. And that's basically what the yellow sign says.
right. I'd love to see something a little better looking
That
than
one,
that
right?
one,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, it's certainly, they can't say they didn't see it.
Yeah.
I don't think
yeah,
it's
these are brown
terrible.
signs. I mean, you
No,
have to really
I don't-
search to find them.
I don't think, and, yeah.
Have you seen these?
Yeah.
These are
No, I have
all
not
over
seen
in
them.
the acreage.
Yeah, no, I haven't been out that way, but that is better than nothing and something that would last, because the brown sign's peeled up, as you could
So
see.
you want a different color, so it's different from theirs, though?
Loxahatchee Groves have town colors,
Those are the town colors.
yellow.
If the lettering was
6,
brown instead of black,
2,
that'd be
6. It's
it.
the same Florida statute.
It's the same one?
Same Florida statute.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
statute
Yeah.
about the right of way
Yellow and
horses.
brown are the town's colors?
Well, the yellow and green, like on the thing down there, the logo.
I'll have to check into that, yeah, that's a good question. I don't-
But I don't know, maybe we could stick a horse head on it too, you know, maybe.
Well,
I've got 15.
regardless of the color, this
Yeah.
is the language, this is what you like, right, where we're showing the statute.
Well, you guys,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you're the committee.
Or even,
I'm just here to
even
push
the
it.
rider again, because having that maybe instead of Indian Trail Improvement District right there.
Well, no, we wouldn't, we'd have,
Well, no,
we'd
we'd
have
have
Loxahatchee
Loxahatchee.
Grove.
Right, Loxahatchee
Yeah.
Groves, and then, well,
But
just
it's,
something that
I think
speaks
the
a
horseshoe's
different
pretty cute,
language.
I like that.
Yeah, I like the horseshoe.
I like that, that's a,
And I like, it's a serious sign. It says slow for horses.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And it, but, yep,
okay, and this point was brought up. We had the sponsored signs, and what we had was the agreement of the landowners to put them there. And that's why a lot of the signs were just ripped out and like thrown in the canal.
Well, you know, but we've had a problem even with like our regular traffic signs, for some reason, we get,
Yeah, I
a
know,
lot
I
of them
think
get
we
ripped
just
out, and
had
we're constantly
people
putting signs back in. Street signs, I mean,
Are they stealing
home,
them?
speed home signs, no matter what it
Speed
is,
home signs,
yeah,
yeah.
no matter
They're
what it is.
taking them?
Yeah.
Well, they're taking them, in some cases, it's what I would call malicious
Oh.
mischief, you know, because sometimes when Frank's out, he'll see them in the canal or somewhere, you know, I mean. But we're doing a lot of
Building airboats out
replacement,
of them, I don't know.
so.
Well, so,
Then your signs may have just been a victim of that kind of thing, you know.
and I do like the Wellington green signs too, the slow for horses. And I know that's Wellington, but I think we have to have the slow for horses signs, at least on some of the main arteries. And I like the equine rider signs, you know, because you know where there's a side street. I mean, usually you can see, or where they're in front of a farm. Maybe even we could sell some to some of the farms that do have traffic out there. Maybe they might want, or take their kids on a trail ride.
Well, anyway, it's our intention, based upon the finance matters, there's a couple other things besides the signs. We'll probably be bringing that to the town council on the 18th of March.
Okay.
At the 18th meeting, not the next meeting,
Thank
the one,
you, I didn't
the one
mean to
after.
be. But I couldn't take it no more.
And we had brought it up to the council again, and with that note, you know, we can remind them that this was something we had asked, I mean, we had asked them for this is not the first time.
Right.
And it is really
Right.
time to.
Oh, I think the council is actually in support of it. Again, it's just the financial aspect. Okay, where are we taking it from? Where do you want us to, you know?
And they whip them golf cart signs up.
In the budget, there is the 80,000, right?
That's for trail development though, and that's capital improvement. You can't really you can't pay for signs out of capital improvement.
Oh.
Yeah.
Leave the 80,000 there, we have more for trails. Use that's how this
Well, not if we
works.
don't use it.
Well, and that's gonna bring us to.
So is there a suggestion that maybe we might need some help from the business community, maybe? Some-
Well, we don't know yet.
Well, that's why I'm kind of I'm coming with this on the 18th, so
Okay.
if you're free and you can attend that meeting, then it'll be a good meeting to attend. That way, if you want to make a comment, you can.
Okay.
The next item is,
Thank you,
the
sorry.
next item is, I wanted to report to you on the, we actually had the meeting, I say we, both Keith and I met with Dan Weisberg, who is the county's traffic engineer, to talk about the controlled equestrian crossings on Okeechobee that this committee recommended the town council, and town council approved. By the way, that's one where no financing was also addressed, but I think we have more time in that. In any event, I think Keith and I don't want to speak for Keith, I'll get him, he can talk after I'm done, but we came away feeling pretty good that I don't think Dan is going to be uncooperative. He wants to be cooperative, but he did have some good questions. The one thing was there a master plan that actually, because Keith talked about Wellington and north of us and the town, was there one master plan that showed the continuation of the trails? And, you know, we couldn't identify one. We said, well, that's probably one that needs to be done in the future.
That was part of why I wanted, that was part of what I was looking for in the MRI, which we can create that separately. It's just the wording, we all have the picture, but the actual wording for where it's going to be, you know, on the letter road.
No, I think he wants to see a graphic. I don't think
He
he's
wants
worried
to see a
about
graphic?
work. He's not worried about wording, I don't believe, right, Keith?
Well, we'll finish.
Okay.
Maybe like an overhead that's
I would like
highlighted
to
up.
comment.
Like
once you
a map,
finish.
you know, map. Okay, his other concern was, are we doing a situation of if we build it, they will come? And, you know, we kind of said, okay, well, you know, we don't have the numbers yet, and that's something that we need to put together for him. And then his other concern on the signal system that Keith proposed, he doesn't necessarily have a problem with the system, but he didn't like the idea of a warning, maybe 100 feet or whatever in front of that system. But his concern was if you don't have enough traffic, then the system will not work like it's designed to work. So, before I turn it over to Keith and I just had some discussions, and we thought, well, you know, this sounds like the kind of project that this committee ought to be involved in moving forward in the future. That's the kind of thing that I think would pay huge dividends in terms of either, you know, developing a map. Maybe you need to work with the other communities as well. somehow approving to him that the numbers are there and that you would use the signal, and with that, go ahead.
If I
know you-
may,
Yeah,
if I
go
may.
ahead, yeah.
He was very gracious in receiving us on this. He was interested in the request. He was concerned that, were the numbers of use sufficient to implement the systems? And he was very ready to call in a technician and go do a count. At that point, I said, if you would go do a count at this time, you would see that there is not a need for it, because there is not we're not officially a trail system in, and people are reluctant to cross Okeechobee right now without any assistance, such as a controlled crossing would offer. He then stated, oh, so you mean if we build it, they will come? And I said, yes. I said, I'm very excited the fact that the designers of the Southern Boulevard extension are putting in controlled crossing equipment for self-activation by equestrians across Southern, which will allow someone to travel from Lake Worth Road, if they want to, through the trail system of Wellington, come across Southern, go through the Waxahachie Trail system, cross Okeechobee, because that's the missing link, then go into the acreage and can actually get as far as North Lake Boulevard. That's when he says, well, do you have a master plan? Well, we don't have a master plan, but we do have, and I've already found on internet search, a map of the village of Wellington. Of course, we have our Waxahachie Groves, and I found a map for the Indian Trails Water District. Now, if we were to demonstrate a need by developing a master plan, and that can be done with these items, and I'll be glad to develop it, that will be a benefit to sell the idea to him. If we could get letters of coordination and support from Village of Wellington, from the Indian Trails Development District and the town of Waxahachie Road, showing that there is multiple municipality interest in this.
In crossing Okeechobee?
In crossing Okeechobee. And tying the trails together, as there are state grants for parks and recreation for interconnection, from us using Wellington, Wellington using us, and that type of thing.
There's intra and intra. This is.
Okay, well, again, I'm an English school dropout, so you have to bear with me. I think he will then, he seemed interested, he just needed more information. And I think that we can provide the information he requested, then he can do his count. Again, he won't get a very good count because people are reluctant to cross that road right now because, one, our trails are not official yet, and two, there's no safe place to do it. So, as I said back to him, yes, you build it and they will come. So,
We have the map of Wellington.
We have the map of Wellington. I mean, at this point, we're also crossing in various places, so if he does a count just on those two roads, I mean, I cross Okeechobee on E Road. But why should I go down to F Road right now to cross there? I can cross it. It's
just as
the
dangerous.
same in blue.
And in further
Yeah,
presentation,
I mean,
further presentation to him, that we can, point that out to him.
And the other thing is, I mean, we have that map that, I guess the closest thing that we have to a visual map is the one that Bill Lauder did, that we all have, that I've given to everybody, that we can maybe finalize a little bit, so it doesn't have all of the fence, turtle crossing and else nuts in there. And I do have a map of equestrian ag classifications of Waxahachie Groves that I had done by the county. The county knows very well that we have a tremendous amount of equestrian ag use in our town. Now, then there are people like me that, you know, some people use grazing because they have cows as well. Other people have decided that, you know, they have the horses, but yet they're not under ag classification. So there are additional people, and that needs to be pointed out, there are additional people beyond that map. And I think the picture could become more convincing very quickly.
Yes, it's our opportunity to sell it to them.
Madam Chair, I would be careful when you said the county knows, because he didn't know. I mean, Keith had to explain to him about the town, and he was willing. You remember, he offered he'll drive the town.
Yeah.
I mean, himself personally, because Keith asked, well, can you have one of your technicians? He goes, one of my technicians are counters. They're not, but if you want me, I will drive your town. Now, he's the traffic engineer. He's the guy, so when you say the county, I mean, I'm relying on what he told me, because there may be information, somebody may have worked on it, but I think he's the focal point that we have to work on.
I have that map. I'm pretty sure I have that map electronically as well. So the only thing is that, you know, it's dated a year or two ago.
I've got a drawing table, T-square, and I can sit there and do the scale, a master plan of southern Wellington out to north acreage. And the more information we give him, the more selling, it's a great opportunity to sell a project, yes. He was very.
I had a bottom line, he didn't say no, that was the, he didn't, you know, he didn't throw us out of there, get out.
And he does have a sense of humor.
Yeah, and I had talked to George Webb a little bit when I was, I said, you will see one of our guys, I gave him a little bit of a heads up. I said, right now, you really don't see the horses so much, because we're all just sneaking across. But, you know, and then, of course, the bill, when that passes, that will be another
And he
item
didn't know
we
what,
can add to
what
that.
Mark was referring to when he was talking about the legislative bill. So, you know, we need to educate him, and we have information at hand, and we can develop it into a nice presentation.
So what I would like to see is what gets put together. I mean, I wish we could all meet outside of these meetings and work together and get the plans together. It would be so wonderful.
Could we not develop
weren't
maybe
under
a
this-
workshop?
Yes.
Tom?
But
You could do a workshop, I guess, where you would all sit around, but I mean, yeah, you can't, but you can't do like what she's referring to, where you can, let's meet at Keith's house and have
Hey,
you know,
I've
party
got,
drafting.
I got the
map.
buds, we can get Papa John's there when I'm available.
there you go.
Which is nobody talk.
So it's something that, you know, that we can put together and,
And that concludes my report.
Yeah, did you just want to go do something for the next time we meet that kind of was a start for this, and we can work from there, and everybody can bring pieces to it? Is that something that we want to do, or?
that'd be
How do
a
you
great,
wanna go about
that'd be a
this?
great idea, you know. I think the keys, of course, is showing them a master plan of the different trail systems and connecting points. Some type of correspondence from those localities showing support, interest, and interaction, and it would be a beautiful thing to have. And any other, you know, supportive information. You know.
Well,
As we think about it, you know, it's not going,
I don't know.
us
whether
turning in tomorrow is not gonna make it happen next week.
I don't know whether you got to see the packet that John Ryan and I put together for the bill, but there's a lot in there that might be useful for that.
If I could get a copy of that to review,
But you're saying he's looking more for
This
the
doesn't exist
graphics than the.
electronically.
He's looking for the graphics, and of course, he wants to make sure the numbers work, but our feeling is that we're a little premature yet, because he's not gonna see the numbers. That's why Keith suggested to him, well, don't send one of your guys out now, because that'll just kill it.
we need to demonstrate it that there's a need and there's going to be use. He doesn't wanna put it up and it gets used 3 times a week.
Yeah, he likes the system, but he says it works against itself if the numbers are low,
Right.
because it doesn't really.
And you know, in our discussion back in October, before we went to town council, the motion was amended to put warning flashers ahead
Mhm.
of it. Mr. Luda, Dr. Luda suggested that, and we put it in part of our package, and he said that would actually defeat and confuse the driver. Your actual crossing, stopping lights and signage is sufficient. Don't confuse them by having something out, because they'll be looking at that and they won't be knowing. And you need to get their attention, just like a school crossing that they just did over here by Wendy's and,
Yeah, Crestwood.
you know, you need to.
Can you dig up the language in both the FERDAP and the, I keep messing them up. I don't want to say DEP and I know that's wrong. What are they called again? I'm drawing a blank here. Help me out. The initials for the grant that we applied to.
Oh, yeah, I have copies.
Yeah, they're the specific, where you receive points for the interconnectivity.
Ooh, I don't know if I have, I can see if I have that, I don't know, I might.
I mean,
If I do, I'll provide it to you.
Yeah, I'll look that up too. I'm pretty sure I've got that somewhere still.
I might have that, might have that in a loose form. I think we might have included that in the grant though. And I think about it, I think that was a page in the grant.
Right, so we can pull it right out of that.
And I have copies of the grant, so.
Regarding the FERDAP, does everybody want to, I mean, we don't know what's happening with the bill yet, but I also don't want to wait so long. Do we want to at least look into what the deadlines are and?
I don't. I don't mean to be a smarty, but I got like 40-some projects. I got a
Okay.
whole list of things to do right now. So.
I mean, I can do that if you guys want me to, and just at least for us to know what the deadlines would be if our bill and everything's gonna be ready in time, so that we, you know, if there's the chance, time-wise, we have the ability to find and not lose that opportunity.
Well, having copies of the previous grant, we're way ahead now. You know?
Yay and nay.
Well, very little has changed with regard to the trail.
It's a different grant, one, and two, there were a lot of things in there. It was a 400-page document that shouldn't have been a 400-page document, in my opinion. And then I'm not the expert at this.
Are you sure FERDAP applies to the trails though? Because that's a generalized grant. That usually people use that to acquire parks and all kinds of things.
We talked about the FERDAP way back when. We just didn't pursue it. They didn't.
Well, we
they
talked
stopped
about
handing
it,
out
but
money
you know
at the
for
time.
sure, that's what I'm asking you.
I'll find out. I remember us talking about it. I seem to think that this was something that would apply to greenways. Pedestrian greenways.
Maybe to greenways, yeah.
Well, recreation,
And
Yeah,
that-
it's a
that is
generalized
part of it.
grant. I mean,
yeah.
because I used it many years ago to the parkland for a playground and stuff. you know.
Right, so if we can
Yeah.
just find out what are the deadlines, what are the requirements, does it make sense?
Yeah, I wasn't sure it applied to trails, that's why they have other grants for that, but maybe it does. I just have to, you know.
Well, we won't know unless we look, right? What else is there? Is that it for the
Well, that's it from my report.
update? We talked about the bill, we talked about the signs.
No, you got closing comments?
Yeah, closing comments, public.
Okay, I just want, one more thing, real quick. I'm trying to fight the trash going on at the plaza and all there. I was up there talking to Russ today.
Mm-hmm.
But while we're on the sign thing, I remember I used to see littering signs. But the one thing I don't want to do is have 500 signs for all different things.
Well, those of us have, Ojim already have that.
Well, I'm trying not to contribute to that. But I was wondering if we could consider, while we're doing the equestrian, if like we could add in the littering, since the police are enforcing the open container law, then maybe we could put like some sort of littering signs up that at least, you know, if somebody sees somebody dumping or whatever, they can get them and nail them. Let's make them pay for trash in our neighborhood. I don't know, am I out of line here?
No, well, I'll look into it, I mean, it's not, you
I
know, the
don't
littering sign is not a
That's
traffic
very
control
hard to
sign, so I
enforce.
gotta see, you know.
Oh, I didn't know, cause you guys are roadways, so I didn't know if that
Yeah.
had anything to do
Yeah.
with you guys too, so.
But-
I just thought I'd bring it up, cause we're trying to
Well, the other issues too,
clean the place up.
do you need a sign? I mean, it's illegal one way or another, is it not?
I think if you're gonna enforce a
Especially if you
fine,
get caught,
Is it,
yeah.
it's a county ordinance, right?
It's gotta be.
is it still, no, I don't know, because now we have our
If
own
it's a county
rules.
ordinance, it's in effect. So we don't have to have signs everywhere.
So is the littering law a county law and how does
I think
that?
that's actually a state law too.
Okay, so then we're good to
With
go.
Texas.
And what, do we make our own $500 fine, or if they, or is that like
No, I
already?
think it's covered by statute. I'm pretty sure.
Alright, that's it. That's all I was gonna say, I just wanted to add that in, cause cleaning up the neighborhood.
Okay. Moving on to committee
You can
members.
just get a citation.
Committee members?
Closing comment?
Any closing comments?
I feel like, bye.
Exactly, who's gonna feed my horses? No, thank you, this is actually a great meeting.
Kathy?
No, bye. Come on. I'm good with that.
It was announced today that the headquarters of McDonald's have realized that they can serve breakfast after 10:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And they're going to start that process.
Taco Bell too.
By the way, did we agree to just bring
Look
you
out, Dunkin'
pieces for
Donuts,
next
right?
time? We did or we didn't? For the,
Pizza's at my place?
no, not the pizza,
I didn't
here.
hear that.
Did we agree on that or not? I wasn't sure whether we had.
Did we agree?
Well, why don't we just have a mini workshop with a time limit, maybe?
Yeah.
And in our meeting, we can work on it. And then we would be, everything would be hunky-dory.
So what you're
If
suggesting
you
is?
come prepared with your map,
Mhm.
I mean, we all can prepare ahead of time, so we're not going from ground zero.
That's
But,
gonna take a lot of time if we start from ground zero. That's kind of why
well, I know, but we keep doing that.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying.
Listen, what, to accompany what you're saying is, say we take 15 minutes to a half an hour in our next meeting to discuss and work on that item.
Okay.
Anybody has anything to bring in, we, you know, or think about it and make a list of, this would be a good idea, or this would be a good idea. And we can develop it as we go, you know.
And if we need to do that in subsequent months, we can.
Yes.
And I think it's important too, that, you know, because you two have been wonderful coming into this committee, you know, kind of just like that into all these big documents. But there are some things that we've worked on already that by working
Sure.
together, you know, we can remember some of these old things that we've already decided on.
Yes. Oh,
So
yeah.
we'll call it an old business input relative to controlled crossings.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That'd be the kind of, I'm just trying to get an idea for agenda purposes.
And, well, I have a remark. I'm happy, actually, I feel kind of relieved right now that the epic's over. I've done it too many times at this point, I think it's
Who's
just dragging on the MREG.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, at this point, I was just glad I needed a break from it. I had looked at it for too many times, so. Wanted to make you guys aware that, the county is trying to initiate a agricultural enclave overlay tomorrow at 9 o'clock, so check out, whoever's interested, check out your county website. And I think that's it. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and working through. Thank you. Sorry.
Knocked you right out.
Next time we'll bring coffee.
My sister left.
And administrative.
Oh, you're by
remarks.
yourself
Well, that's it, I'm done, I gave you
it.
my 2 cents.
And we are
Mom's not
adjourned.
in town? I'm sorry.
Are we adjourned?
You were adjourned,
We're
please.
We're adjourned.
You by
Mom's gone,
yourself?
sister's gone, I'm all by myself.
Oh, my.
So it's been like from 4
Goodness.
o'clock in the morning until 11, and yeah.
I know the feeling.
At least you have 2 to go home to. I got 15 waiting for me.
Yeah, you know, you're absolutely right about that. If there was more than that, I'd move too.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, Phyllis.
Night, but you also have some egg cartons in my car for you.
Okay.
Yeah, all
This
night.
weekend?
There's one
Yeah,
thing.
really, I can't even hear myself.
Wait till you get the audio.
By the way, can I get a copy of the audio because I didn't have batteries.
Cost you $35.
Our manure ordinance, are we now in effect that nothing is brought into town anymore?
Well, it's a zoning in progress, but it seems like they're bringing more into town.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, we're having a-
I've seen it.
Literally.
Yeah, we're having a major issue. We're gonna probably have a meeting on it, internal, you know, with the sheriff and everything on Tuesday for our Tuesday night's meeting.
Good night.
Night, Ken.
Like Ron Jarrell called me with some issues, with an